enough.
Mhm.
Right there.
And you turn that one down that way.
I'm just worried about them
I'm
not
gonna talk.
not dying during the regular meeting.
Tired? Oh, you trying to get back to the.
Whoa, I'm sorry.
Again.
I know.
Kansas City and Detroit, it's not gonna be a game. And if the announcers are who I think they are, I'm not gonna watch it anyway. And if I do, it's gonna be with the sound off.
Is the Thursday night games the ones where they'd have the Manning brothers on another channel? Have you ever watched that?
I haven't seen that.
Have you ever watched that? They're pretty
No.
good.
Yeah. I would imagine.
Hi, Brandon.
How's it going? I'm ready to rock and roll.
Is that foldable?
Yeah, it's an awesome phone. I love
They'll never be as good as John Madden.
Funny, they went to a foldable phone and then they went to a not foldable phone.
But it's
and now
folding the other
it. I
direction
always
now.
wanted.
Used to be on the
I always
foot.
wanted like a iPad that you could talk on the phone. Like, hey,
You can,
Look a little weird
Yeah,
with
but
it
now I
attached
got
to your
this.
head,
This
but
is- This is pretty close.
you can talk on an iPhone or an iPad.
Yeah, but I wanted it to be like my phone that I put in my pocket, and now I got it right here.
Just give them a boombox, like the 70s and
oh,
80s.
man, no, let's not go back there.
This one has a drawable screen too, so I can take notes. It's not
Nice.
working though right now.
And it's smart.
Yeah, it's pretty smart. I like it. Oh yeah, see. Take my notes. Doodle.
Then does it translate it into,
You can, yeah, you can have it.
How do you translate doodle?
Like my doodle, but probably it won't even read some of my
Even,
handwriting.
that
sometimes,
stretches the
too.
limits of artificial intelligence when they can decipher doodles.
okay, it's 5:30. We're gonna have a nice, fun, long evening. So, but we're gonna start off with this work session with the planning commission. And, I'm gonna go ahead and let Geneva kind of start driving if you want to, and turn it over to whoever you want to for this whole thing.
I'm gonna turn it right over to Lou. This is his baby.
Where's Lyle?
No, this is somebody else's baby that I was in charge of taking care of. I'm gonna just briefly review what the mayor charged us with evaluating the A1R zone relative to nursery in the community. And so I was just given the assignment. I do what I do quite frequently. I reviewed the A1 requirements in all the neighborhood communities and looked at the wording and how they addressed the issue that we were considering. And our original proposal was basically mirroring the wording that they had, okay? And in essence, what it said is virtually anything you produce on your property, whether it's animals, eggs, plants, fruits, vegetables, if it's produced on the premises, you can sell it. That's pretty much. And universally, they also said or prohibited retail sales. Now, in the last city council meeting, there was questions raised about what do we mean by retail sales? I understand that because you could say if I'm selling a pumpkin, that's retail sales. So at the suggestion actually of David, I revised the wording to reflect what I thought would be more accurately reflecting what it is. So it still has the list of nurseries, greenhouses, vegetable stands, fruits, and animals and eggs. But at the end, what I'm suggesting is something like this. There is no retail shop operation where items previously purchased or resold. The most significant part of that is previously purchased and resold. That's the distinction that I see between produced on the premises and bought somewhere else and resold. And I think that's where we cross the line between letting people sell what they grow on their land versus a commercial operation where you purchase something and you resell it. So that's kind of where we're at right now. The other thing that happened in our previous discussion, which I hope won't tonight, is keeping the A1 and A1R ordinance, which are in the zoning part of our municipal code, separate and distinct from the agribusiness, which is in a completely different section of the code that deals with businesses. That would be a useful discussion another time, but I would beg that we don't start merging those two together because they're two very different parts of the code. And that in essence is where we ended up, what I'm suggesting as possible rewording, or we can work on that to such that it would convey more clearly the intent and get around the vagaries that some people had troubles with.
So are these listed as conditional uses
This would be,
in those
No.
A zones?
yeah. The problem we had is, if you look at, and I've got it here, permitted conditional uses in all residential zones, okay?
Mhm.
And it turns out they're universal for all zones. So what we proposed is that we would add to that, in addition to the conditional uses listed above, that is for all residential zones, the following are permitted conditional uses only for the A1 and A1R zone.
Okay, so
Okay.
to clarify, the agricultural zones.
Right, so what it says is, here's a list of conditional uses in residential zones, but there's an additional consideration for A1 and A1R. Seemed like the logical place to put it because that's, originally we were gonna put it someplace else, but since you already have a permitted conditional uses for all residential zones, it just made sense that that's where it belongs in the code, so.
Right, well, and the only other way to do that is you'd have to put those in each of those A zones.
Yeah.
But then you have copies of things, and we don't like copies of things all over the place, because over time, they get out of sync.
It's also odd because in the individual zones, they don't list, they don't
It says refer
repeat
to
the
this.
list. Yeah, they refer to this. So you're right back to referring to this. So why not just put it here in the
Yeah.
first place? So,
So do we not care, do we not want to allow sales of eggs or whatever in besides A zones?
well, frankly, we haven't allowed it in any of the zones. We have allowed it, but it's not a stated conditional use. That one thing this does is validate what has been done for a long time in the A1 zone, and that's people produce stuff on their land and they sell it. Okay, it's formalized what has been done in the past. Now, a good case in point though is, so somebody in the R115 zone has some chickens and wants to sell some eggs. The problem you get into is that's something you can do on a small plot of land. You can't do some of these others, so then you have to start putting something specific for that one as well.
Well,
So-
and isn't that a little bit different, because it's like, basically, it's almost like a yard sale. It's like, I'm gonna be selling some things during a certain time. I'm not creating a business.
But none of these are business. I mean, I guess
No.
it could be.
Well, the difference too is in an A1 zone, a lot of people have businesses in the A1 zone, but they're residential businesses with very specific requirements. You don't have signs, you don't have traffic, there's no visible evidence of the business, okay? So the minute I don't want to go there. If you want to change the code to accommodate that, you can. I was trying to, the vast majority of what we're talking about occurs on larger lots because it requires larger lots to do it in the first place. So,
Correct me if I'm wrong. I think there's a state statute that allows property owners to build a small structure and sell fruit or vegetables that they've developed on their own
fruit
property.
stands are permitted, eggs, no. That's absolutely correct. We're reiterating what's already
I
allowed.
understand it. I'm just clarifying.
Yep.
That's a state statute.
I like,
Go ahead.
I like the changes that were made to it. I think my only question is, so like in this first line, nurseries and greenhouses provided the sale of goods is limited to materials produced only on the premises. Do we need to include, the sale of goods, provided the sale of goods is limited to materials produced only on the premises, like we have that kind of like that
Okay,
qualifier in the nurseries and greenhouse one?
okay, it should be, every one of them has produced only on the premises. Every single one of them has that statement.
I think it's provided the sale of goods.
Okay, for nurseries, it says nurseries and greenhouses, provided the sale of goods is limited to materials produced. Fruits and vegetables stands for fruits or vegetables produced only on the premises. Eggs and animals produced only on the premises.
Um,
So I'm not following what
so
you're,
sorry, so this one says, provided the sale of goods is limited to materials produced. So do we, because it, right now, that like second doesn't have any
you,
caveat for the sale of goods. It just says no retail
the,
sales.
the reason for the difference in wording is fruits and vegetables are what you're selling. Eggs and animals are what you're selling, but you're not selling nurseries and greenhouses. You have to word it differently.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is not.
Oh, this is the most,
Oh, oh,
thank you. This makes a big difference.
we seem to have gone down this road before.
Yes, we have. Pink blue. I know, that's not what it
I
says.
do have a few more copies. I don't have enough for everybody, but
Yep, that
Huh?
takes care of it. Yep.
yeah, you got an earlier iteration, yeah.
So which was actually in the packet? This one?
The old one.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
Maybe I ought to give one to the attorney. I don't know which version. You've got this, I'm pretty sure you got this one, with the exception of the rewording that I put. Yeah,
Okay, so we're discussing the rewording.
right.
So, yes, okay. Does that satisfy?
I think.
Now, nobody seemed to raise any issue with the signs. I do want to just visit that. We didn't refer to the sign ordinance because it's specifically for commercial.
Mhm.
So what we did is we added one piece in the residential zones for signs allowed in the residential zones. And I have no idea which version the city council got, but this is what we have done. We just added one more piece in the residential zone where it discusses signs. And I believe you've seen this too, right? Pardon? It just seemed the most sensible place to put it, so, and what we do is we refer to this for the sign requirements, okay? You may want to take exception to the size, that's somewhat of an arbitrary decision, but we thought 2 by 3 feet is a reasonable sign without it getting too big, you know? We thought that it should only be posted when they're selling something and not posted year round. That seemed reasonable too. But you could take exception to some of these.
That's, it's still a work in progress, or can be.
Well,
That's what you're
this
saying.
is first cut, and
Right.
when I say as far as the sign size, that's an arbitrary decision. There was nothing, you know,
I think a little bit bigger wouldn't be.
well, and
bad.
say what you want it to be.
Yeah.
You want it to be 8 feet? Well, I'd be pretty adamant about that. You know, there's no reason to have it up in a residential zone when they're not selling anything.
That's a political
Shall not
sign.
exceed 8 feet
8
then?
square feet.
How about the height? Okay, 2 by,
16 square feet.
8 square feet's,
That's.
it's hard to do the math.
4 by
You're
4.
starting to,
No, it's not even that. It's 2 by 4.
2 by 4, which is kind of a strange sign.
He meant 16.
3 by 4.
16.
Because I think a 4x4 sign.
Oh, 4 by 4, yeah. Okay, so
16 square.
shall not exceed 16? Is that what everybody agrees to?
Square feet.
Square feet, which means, and then
be
that
2
we
by
would
8.
probably have to alter the sign a little bit then, or can we keep it, the maximum height is 5 feet. We're trying to keep it from being a billboard.
I think you can leave a height restriction.
How about that? Keep it close to the ground. You can have a bigger sign, but we don't want it sticking clear up in the air.
I
Okay.
like 5 feet because it's in line with the real estate sign
Okay, that's
language.
where this came from, by the way.
Keep it simple.
You steal quite a bit, don't you?
If I find something
If
that's
possible.
worthy of theft, I steal it.
It's the way to do it.
Do we want, I really like how the political sign has and shall conform to current clear view zone criteria. I haven't looked up what clear view
It's like
zone criteria is.
we
but-
actually have a picture in the code.
But isn't that also,
That's usually, that's a corner type.
that's actually a residential
Yeah.
requirement, isn't it? You can't block it. I mean, there's a
You can't
clear,
even have a bush.
you
too
can't have a
low.
bush, tree, or anything blocking that. So
That's the
knowing
whole
that that
clear
was
view.
there, I didn't put this here.
Yeah, clear
but
view is
doesn't matter to
kind
me.
of given.
Yeah.
Looks good to me.
Okay, any more questions, comments? Really appreciate you doing this, Lou. I know it's been fun.
Yes, it has.
I appreciate the back and forth and your
Well,
patience.
we're actually not throwing rocks at each other anymore, which is very pleasant.
Gotta keep you on your feet.
No,
Healthy
what I've
debate is
tried to
good.
do is
Yeah.
make it sensible, pattern it after what other communities are doing. It seems, it does everything. Somebody that's on a larger plot, if they grow it on that plot, they can sell it. If they start, once they start purchasing and reselling, they've entered into a commercial enterprise. It's kind of a different story altogether, so.
How about consignment?
It's fine.
Well, they're not purchasing it.
It's just being-
So here's a question that's beyond this code right here, but does kind of play into this is, do we create because we have, business licenses, right? We have residential, we have solicitor, we have commercial business license. Do we come up with an agricultural business license?
So wouldn't they still have to get a business license with this?
I would-
They haven't, have they? Do the people are selling corn, pumpkins in Far West actually come in here for business
Well,
licenses?
I guess one thing about something like that, for instance, the greenhouse thought, that's getting closer to needing a business license type of thing. And how better do you enforce any of this than having something that also ensures that they're collecting sales tax?
It's
It's a question to everybody.
That's a fine line because everybody that sells eggs, we don't really necessarily, they don't
No.
necessarily need business license or everybody that sells.
But at some point you do cross a line of it's larger than just,
I feel like if they have to hang a sign, then they should
Get a
have
business
business
license.
license. That would be my
They
thought.
sell like a certain number of days per year or something like that.
There we go.
Except for small children that put up a sign and sell
Okay,
Kool-Aid.
a sign that stays up for, longer than, yeah,
well,
a
No.
true.
There, I agree with you. At some point, I like the idea that there is a review process when it gets big enough, you know?
I feel like nurseries and greenhouses are already on the verge of commercial anyway. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's the only thing, and we've talked about this, is like, I don't know if that just fits there, but I understand the purpose of it. You want to keep. But like say a nursery greenhouse, if they're producing for commercial use, I don't know, that gets.
See, how does
Is
that
something
differ
like if
from,
you're selling to the public, you need to have a business license?
well, no, but consider this. Somebody sells eggs, they have a hen house. Somebody sells plants, they have a greenhouse. Tell me what's different between those two? I mean, functionally.
If you're advertising and selling eggs, that's a business. That should
No,
have a
oh, well, I'm
business
not
license.
arguing against a business license, no. I think that's,
Then how do you enforce that?
now what do you charge for business
Well,
license?
Thinking
They're
of
not
revenue,
much.
right? If you
Okay,
make
so that's
less
not
than
gonna take 'em out of
$100
business.
well, we,
there,
no,
Revenue might be-
You know what I mean? Like, if you make over a certain threshold in money, maybe you need a business.
I don't know about
license.
if it's money or if it's, I kind of like the idea of if you're putting up a sign, that's a more permanent sign, not just, propped up on the corner type of thing. That it's like, and they intend to be a business, then they maybe require a business license. That gives us some way of coming back to ensure they're following the code.
So is that?
I don't think that goes in this code.
Okay.
I think that
Okay, that's
becomes
you understand
another
my question.
possible business license. They come in with a for a business license and they say what they're doing.
So how would somebody that decides to sell eggs know that they need a business license?
I think it depends on how large.
But who
Yeah.
polices that? I mean,
Well, in order for any sign to go up, they have to come to the planning commission. That's a trigger.
That's for a commercial sign. This is,
They'll still have to come to
no, commercial signs have to be reviewed. This one, there's nothing in here that says you have to come to the planning commission
No,
for
it says
residential.
this is our sign ordinance.
Shall be reviewed by the planning commission.
Oh, it does? Okay, great. Okay, then we're safe. So does that mean we review it and we flag it to you
Well,
or?
basically, that flags that this is a business. And it's an agricultural business and they require a business license, just like we do with solicitors. And it's a thought.
We've also got this code, it's right under the temporary business requirements for Christmas tree sales. And it says it's like subject to licensing and other requirements for a temporary business. If it's a nonprofit submitting the application, they're not required to pay the license fee, but shall be subject to other application and use standards. Maybe that could be adapted to capture, that next
The
step
agricultural
for
business.
this.
But like, let's say someone sells
They should pay.
cows, I don't know if we have it. That might be you only sell like 1 or 2 cows, but you're gonna make a lot of revenue off of 1 or 2 cows, you know what I mean?
I don't know.
And you don't have to necessarily
But
put up
I-
a sign, you can sell 2 cows and
Well,
if
that's,
you're doing it every year annually.
That's my only worry. If they choose not to put up a sign, then they're not paying for a business license. So where's the other catch?
Is the purpose to generate revenue for the city?
No.
Or, which I thought
Just
not, or to simply know what's going on?
Know what's
that this
Okay.
this has been flagged as a business and they need to follow it. They have their own licensing they have to go through, right? Through the state and all that, even for a lot of these. So they need to do that. So they need to come to us for a business license and to ensure they have all the, not that much different. My wife does hair in the basement, she has to get her licensing and all that as well and be licensed to do business. And we can decide whether that's, whether we charge for that business license or whether it's a small fee for the business license. Right now, like for residential, it's 30. I know commercial is 100. It's for a future conversation, actually, is what I'm saying. But how do we feel about a agricultural business license?
I feel like it acts like a barrier, and I think like in what we're trying to nurture here with, mom and pop or the kid wants to sell the eggs from his 4-H project. It's like, and are we legislating for something that's not a problem, not gonna be a problem?
I still stand behind if there's a sign out there, they need a business license with the city. Cause that's promoting, that's soliciting,
So
That's
you
something
saying the same thing as she is?
no, she's.
I thought you were saying the opposite.
Yeah.
You're
Okay, I wanna-
thinking of the kids
I wanna
selling
make-
eggs
I wanna
from their
make sure
house.
Okay.
That's why, like, the kids, if he has a little like A-frame sign, I could care less about that, but if you're planting a sign in the ground and it's staying in front of your home or driveway or whatever, I think you need to come to the city and at least tell us what you're doing.
But I think the language in the sign ordinance says it's like only posted when products are sold, so it wouldn't be like a permanent sign. It shouldn't be a permanent sign.
But is it a permanent for the summer? Is it a permanent for 4 months out of the
Could be.
year?
Could be.
But
Probably about 9 months. out
if
of
they
the year.
comply with the sign requirement, what is the city gonna do in that review process? Other than say, good luck? I mean,
I'm with Katie.
is
I
there a
don't
function in
know
the
if there's a
review?
need.
If not, I don't see a purpose for the review.
Like if I put out 5 jars of honey with a sign that says honey, now I gotta get a business license?
No,
You
I
know?
Yeah,
wasn't-
but that's
I wasn't
not-
thinking that at
Right,
all.
where's the line?
Right.
Like, we allow that, so
Maybe
Did you
instead
say
of the-
something like a sign that comes up, that stays up for more than 30 days is considered, needs to be reviewed by planning commission
Maybe.
and then.
Maybe it's when they consider themselves to be a business.
That's fine, that's.
We're gonna do.
I have no strong feelings about this.
I have a strong feeling if there's a sign staying out there for an extended period of time, they need to come in and tell us what they're doing. That's my feeling.
I lean that way.
So where would you
Depends on
put
the
that
sign,
then?
though.
Not in here, in the business license.
Okay, so somebody else is gonna worry
Yeah.
about that language. Good.
I got neighbors who have eggs they sell, but it's just a little politician-sized sign, and it's up, you like barely notice it. It doesn't disturb.
That to me is a whole different situation.
Right, but we're talking a 16 square foot sign. That's
Yeah,
That's
That's a business.
That's business, but
I
just a
agree.
small little one. And
yeah.
that one's out probably 9 months of the year,
Yeah,
but
but we don't specify with the sign size to determines if it's a business or not.
Can you say something like smaller than this
See,
is?
I'll tell you, I'll be the devil's advocate.
You
If,
always are.
you bet. So you try to link the sign side, where you have to report it as a business to the sign of the size of the sign.
Yeah.
I'm a shrewd businessman. I don't want to go through the hassle. You know where I'm going with this, don't you?
Which is fine, and
Nine by
less
3.9.
people, right, less people
Three
can
of them.
see it. I don't know.
Yeah, right.
Well, it's no.
That'd
if-
probably work
if
better
I
than one
put
big
a
one.
Permanent, I mean, if I put a permanent sign promoting my business in my home, which we don't allow.
Right.
Why would I not have to come here and tell you what I'm doing?
Right.
I mean, if you're a home business, you aren't allowed to have signage. So if we're allowing someone to have signage, shouldn't they be coming in?
It is kind of an interesting paradox. In the residential business, it's a secret to the neighborhood.
But
This
they need a
one, we're
license.
telling them, no, it's not a secret, and you can have a 16 square foot sign, so.
We don't want that big of a sign.
Well, the other turn too is, okay, say the business is doing something that does not fall within our ordinance, where is our compliance and where is our ability to say, well, they haven't come in for anything, we didn't approve the sign, we don't have a business license, other than them not follow, I mean, I don't know, I feel like it gives us a little bit more to have recourse if they aren't following our code.
If you're gonna behave like a business, I think it says in our code too.
behave like a business, then you need to get a business
Yeah,
license.
and, I think somewhere in the business license section of the code, I think it states it really clear, but I don't want to go to the point of, lemonade stands. If you're selling things in the city of Far West, you need a business license.
And it's not about the fee, it's simply just knowing what's going on.
It's fairness.
But if I was gonna sell eggs for a few months a year, I wouldn't come in and get a business license.
No.
Right.
But I'm okay
Agreed.
with that too, so.
Back to the signage, though, this does bring up the point that if someone's trying to get away from this 16 or 8 square feet, whatever we decide, we don't say in here that you're limited to one sign.
We don't.
We probably need to state that as well.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
there you go, that's a good catch.
Single sign.
Yeah, otherwise you're gonna have a line of billboard looking things.
It would look like Wall Drug going across South Dakota.
Exactly.
If you've ever had the experience, you've got
Starts
to,
in Nebraska.
you got to stop at Wall Drug, because what on earth is this? And what a disappointment.
Well, and they do it in the fact where you have to read each one of them because it's a story.
Oh, yeah, it's terrible.
My doctor said,
Then maybe the sign review process is a trigger for
Yes.
some sort of
That's
exactly.
what I'm saying, is that
application.
if they're
at-
coming
at
in
a
for sign
minimum.
review, they probably need a business license.
Yes.
And that would be the way you.
And part of getting the license is, did the planning commission recommend the sign
So it goes through both the planning commission and the city council anyway, so
for the sign?
for the sign,
Yeah.
so that's your flag.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah, they say your sign's okay, now let's see if we decide to let them have a business before they do anything. I like that. I think it's fair. That's my personal opinion. It's fair and reasonable.
Well, if you're promoting enough to have or need a sign, you really are functioning as a business.
And then we have some continuity too between like the home businesses. It's not like, oh, well, you let them have a sign. It's like, no, you still gotta have a license, some sort of like tracking.
Yeah, because our haircuts produced on site.
No, but there's a lot of home businesses where they produce a product on site.
Yes, they do.
I mean,
Also resell.
and it's resale. So
That's a different type of thing. They do have to have a business license.
you have to accept the fact that when it's on an A1 or an A1R lot, we're allowing them to display
Advertisement.
advertisement. That is built into this,
And then, which creates it as,
which is,
basically makes it a business.
somebody could argue that's inconsistent, but
So selling seeds, the repackaged seeds, is gonna be A no-go?
If you grew the flowers and harvested the seeds.
You go home now.
I'm just thinking of all the little tiny things, a soda, a
Exactly
seed,
what-
anything that you sell
Barry
that's
buys
not.
it in bulk and he repackages. Okay, I anticipated that. I didn't even want to,
I'm just thinking, there's so many.
where previously unaltered items are resold. I hate doing that, but I mean, that would get around that. You know what I'm saying? I thought somebody was gonna say, well, you bought the seed and they grew a plant, and so really you're reselling because it started with a seed.
Well, no, he's.
I'm already
And I-
thinking,
Yeah.
yeah,
But
that's-
wait, was that what you meant? Or I meant like you
No,
can't
I
like
meant those
package.
I tried-
packaged
Oh,
seeds
okay,
that
yeah.
are already.
And I suggest we keep this simple until
Yes.
somebody presses us against the wall, okay? I doubt it will
Absolutely.
happen.
Just one quick revisit on the sign size, because now I'm thinking about it, like, if my neighbor has a 4x4 sign, that's in
But
my
you're
front
an-
yard.
An
They have to have an A1 zone.
You're half acre. Yeah, don't
See,
worry. Well, you are up
But
to an
yes.
acre, but your lot frontage is.
but you're not used
Your
to seeing hay
zoning-
wagons and fertilizer spreaders and tractors coming out of their driveway either.
But it
We,
says
in an
A1.
A1
Your
zone,
your
that's
zoning
part of the
starts with
world.
R, so you don't have to worry
Yeah.
about
This
it.
says A1 and A1R.
But they're both 1 acre plus lots.
Yeah,
And it
the-
says
That's the
temporary,
reason,
right?
that's the reason for it.
The A is agricultural.
While they're
Yeah,
still-
it's,
Oh, that's not right.
yeah, yeah.
Getting my R's.
And there's not that many A's left.
Is A1R even a zone that we use anymore?
Yeah.
I know that there's.
Well, we never see a subdivision with it. I mean, it's on the map. There are,
Ours is an A1R.
Yeah,
because
right.
it
Do we-
allows for restrictions. and
right,
that's-
but it's a historical artifact, basically.
But it's agricultural.
Go out, put a 4x4 sign.
You can deal with your neighbors.
Just don't block the
What
clear
are you gonna
view.
put on it?
Can't wait till you have to come in for a business license.
He's gonna be
You
reselling.
can't put signs out and just say,
Horsemanure.
come visit me or something like that. There's gotta be more purpose than that.
You're selling your charm.
Yes.
There you go.
Okay, so are we happy with Lou's latest, greatest revision?
Yeah, you guys gotta move on to.
Okay, so we will take official action on this in our meeting.
Okay, and don't worry about the business license part. We'll come up with some, we'll add that to
Yeah,
the
that's
business
your-
license section.
That's your stuff.
Yeah, you can have a business, you come in for business license.
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah,
I was about to say,
Liam's
you
already
come
halfway
down
there.
beyond the half hour and look at that, exactly 6:00.
You've probably seen this a few times already.
That's what we could.
Don't
Probably
challenge
steal a
me.
bit too.
Right.
Well, you know, it's one of those things where when it comes time to police it, you're never gonna have one of those. Good work, Lou.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
Thank you. You guys can stick around for our next conversation, but you don't have to.
Would you like us to move from the table or? Okay. Just wanna make sure.
I don't care. I can remove myself.
Okay.
I have to stay for the.
I've seen personnel policies for too many years.
Okay. So we'll take a 3-minute break or something and let those that need to use the little boys' room and little girls' room or just exit.
I got some eggs to sell.
You got some eggs to sell?
It is an interesting
That's
question,
funny
though.
that you brought
What's
up
that?
Katie.
You can sign it.
Well, I ran into her today because I was over.
There are so many gray areas.
She's a sweetheart though. She's,
Look,
I
we
would've-
started
I
with
honestly
this,
would've-
knowing
if you
full
had
well
given me a
we're gonna
list
have to
of
modify
people,
some
I
of
would
it
have
sooner or
never
later.
put that together.
I'm just asking the question, Lou.
I'm like, no way, Brandon's.
What's the-
I know what you're asking.
Sister, not
Huh?
Chad.
Next meeting, what is that? Just this next.
Has to do with personnel policy.
Can't believe it.
Probably don't need me for that then.
You don't have to.
It's the Far West City personnel policy.
Okay. You're gonna feel bad if I don't stay?
I'm not gonna feel bad at all.
I am only staying because I have to be at the 7th. I would leave with you. Don't feel bad. Yeah, seriously.
Okay, I'm gone.
Right, exactly.
Thank you. Enjoy your evening.
The Far West attorney, does that come to you? Did you see that list I sent today?
I didn't look at it yet. I saw the email though.
I went through Weber County and Marriott, Slaterville, and a couple other ones, and some stuff that I thought of that might come as businesses here. So what we want to do is we want to look at that in our next work session. See what everyone else thinks, cross stuff off. If you see things on there that need to be crossed off, just send me back an email, okay? I changed some verbiage on the bottom. The conditional uses that no hazardous material,
Oh, you found it? Oh, good.
a whole sentence in there with that, so take a look at that too. And then I'm gonna change the conditional use verbiage on the M1, so it includes you need to follow the city ordinance and the general plan. So that verbiage needs to be added in there as well.
Where do you see him at?
I'll take a look. Thanks.
Oh, does he? Okay.
That way you just have an idea what it
Real
is.
estate now than hair?
It's,
Oh, great.
it's not that big.
Okay.
It's not that big. What I did is I left the current ordinance for conditional uses,
What's the good guy?
and then I added everything in bold.
He cuts my mom's hair too.
So it's easy to tell.
So they're actually the minutes from August 17th.
If you have questions, you know how to reach me.
Right?
Got it. Thanks for sending that.
Okay, yeah, my bad.
That's right.
I got that in my head because I did the 24th of August meeting for planning commission.
Yes.
So, yeah.
So, yeah,
So they're
I
actually.
think we can on the fly correct a typo.
Yeah.
I think even Liam would approve it.
As long as you
I'm gonna sit over here. The
Are they going to
balance
approve
is
these?
really.
No, the.
What, because they all
Yeah, there's
left?
just like this big empty.
Or
Oh.
Thank you.
always gonna bring your
Gotta stay
hat
hydrated.
and your,
It's for later, after this meeting.
I don't have to drive home.
okay, I've updated mine. Okay, it's 3 after. Here we are in our second work session, having to do with personnel policy. How do we want to start this? Liam, do you want to?
You know, if anybody has questions about it, and I know Katie sent me her questions, and they aren't anything that we are unable to get through in this meeting
Okay.
quickly. But I know David had some questions as well, and I haven't seen his. So if you guys want to start on what you got, or what you're
Oh,
concerned with, or whatever.
Were you not copied?
I did not see yours, no.
Oh, shoot. Sorry about that.
No worries.
I thought everyone was on that string.
That's okay.
So let me send them to you now.
Yeah, send them to me now, or, yeah, that works.
You wanna go maybe section by section? Like start from the top?
Yeah, and then if you guys have questions about that section, that's fine.
Liam, what's your email?
Far West, wait, no, legal.
Yeah,
Legal.
legal at Far West City.
Okay.
Legal.
I'll start. So 1-1, full-time regular employees are those who are hired to work 32 hours or more per week. Is this, between 32 and 40 hours, or, and how many of our employees fall in that spectrum? Why isn't it just 40 hours a week?
That's IRS.
Okay.
So, yep, IRS does.
Federal rule.
Does it actually say 32 or does it
This
say
is
30?
32.
I think actually.
That's the definition of full-time is greater than 32.
Full-time,
You work,
32.
I do. Well,
But you think it should be
32 by the time you get through Tuesday, right?
I actually thought it said 30, so.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, I'd love to work full time. I mean,
Yeah.
less than 70.
Yeah,
Our
1-1 says
part-time
32.
definition is 30 hours per week,
Less than 30 hours?
less than 30.
Yeah, so then it's actually IRS, I'm just looking it up, it is 30 hours
okay.
per week.
For full-time.
Yes, 30 hours plus average.
We go.
Or is it 31?
The document said 32, I think that's why we.
Okay,
Yeah, it says 32.
Temporary or seasonal employees, and just kind of referencing some other cities' personnel policies. Do we need to include any language there about like the ages and hours that they can work? Is there anything like legally that we need to have there if we're, because I know a lot of our kids that are doing like the rec stuff are younger.
We can address that here, but whether we do or don't, it goes without saying that there are limitations on age and hours. So it's really up to you guys what you want to see in there.
And my first reaction to that is if this is something that's going to be handed off to an employee and somebody that's young, and I want them to know, I would want my kid to know that like, this is what's required of you and have it spelled out pretty clearly for them.
One of the things that we were trying to do is to make this so it would be a policy, and then we reference code so that we didn't have to go in and change it every time code changed or every time law changed. So that was one of the purposes of when we were looking at things, so we didn't have to change the ordinance every time.
Yeah, 'cause ordinances are laws, and policies can be policies based on laws. Did I say that right? I'm not even a legal guy.
Good.
Sounded good, whether it was right or not, it sounded good.
Those were my only.
It's how you say it.
My only two questions on section 1.
Okay.
Dave, did you have anything there?
I don't think I have any in one.
Those were mostly definitions, right? Oh, yeah.
Section 2, it looked like we just had some text hanging out there, like with assignments to it. So like on 2-3A, it said like dash personnel committee. I don't know if that was meant to be there or, you know, what's the context there?
Reference committee on classification and payment. Yeah.
Why is my name?
Yeah, that's.
Oh, that, I see what you're saying now.
Yeah.
My version's different than the final one. I see what you got. I was really confused when you sent me this edit. I thought you added these.
Oh, no.
I see. So those should be deleted. Personnel committee and Andrea, that was from our discussion on this earlier, yes.
Those were notes.
That's the one that I have.
See, my final one I'm looking at doesn't have that here.
I don't think that anybody's name should. In the policy.
You're gonna be here forever though.
There's one on, there's one on G that has the recorder and then,
F has that recorder also.
yep, and then it's on J,
Okay. Okay.
Great, easy fix.
I think Jay is correct. Review performance evaluations for full-time and part-time employees, department heads, and then the personnel committee, so.
Oh, I think that we discussed this because it says the mayor shall.
Yeah, the mayor
and then we
shall.
went through and said actually does those.
Right.
So you've made a note of who
Who's
is
actually
actually in
doing
charge of
that?
those rather than the mayor shall.
But didn't we want to leave this the mayor shall with the help of these people? Because at the top, it
Or
says now,
designee, I think, isn't
the
it?
mayor with the help of such aides or assistants as may be required shall do these things.
Yeah.
And so then he can call upon those people to do it. I thought that was the final consensus, if that works. So then J would be deleted, the department heads, the personnel committee.
Yeah.
Would be deleted. It's deleted on mine anyways. Good catch though.
Taking the assignments out, basically, is what we're doing, right?
Chapter 3, hiring, or anything else, sorry, you guys.
Nothing else in 2 for me.
Well, chime in.
Oh, so 3 is where I have my first one, Katie.
Okay, go ahead.
So in 3.3, it says the shall not apply if the mayor so it's anti-nepotism policy. And it's the mayor determining. I think that's just a little narrow. I think that should be more of the personnel committee. If there's really a situation that we feel like is a nepotism issue, then it should be more than one person deciding if it's okay or not. That's just a thought I had.
I'm okay with that.
Fine, should we make that a change then?
I like it.
Personnel committee.
Is it normal to have an exception to an anti-nepotism policy?
Allowed.
It's allowed?
Let's just say that, when Liam had a nephew that wanted to do work, but he'd be working for Dave. I mean, that could be an exception as a part-time seasonal employee.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
there's exceptions like that, is the way I see it.
Right.
But I think the 3.2 says it shouldn't directly be in the direct line of supervision. So then that wouldn't.
Exactly.
That's pretty typical, is that if there are any relations that they, don't work for the same, they don't report to their relative.
Okay, yeah.
I think that all is defined there, but again, it's like,
And any exceptions, because there may be something like with a part-timer or something like that, where it's like, okay, maybe it's close, but
and again, maybe it's the mayor's relative that we're talking about here. So should the mayor have the ability to just bypass and approve that?
Unilaterally.
All right, so then in 3.7, the way this was written confused me. I think what we're trying to say is that the city may submit to or provide to this whoever individuals are currently employed or hired for employment with the city may submit or provide to the city at their own expense a criminal history background check. Meaning that the prospective employee or existing employee is paying for that criminal history background check?
Right, this was a discussion we had in.
This is May, it's not required.
Right.
So what's the purpose of, I mean, if we want background checks, I would think the city needs to take on full responsibility. So we can choose who does it, how it's done, and paid for, versus having any error that the employee is the responsible party. Therefore, do they get to choose who does it, what service they use?
So that's fine if the city's willing to pay for it to have it done, I guess. If you guys.
Well, and is it required? Because this does not imply that it's required. It says they may
Right,
submit to.
it's may submit.
So is it required or not?
I think it's,
well, if we're requiring it, then they would have to do it, but they may submit. I think the way this reads, they may submit, let's say they've already had a criminal background check.
Yeah, maybe required to submit to, I think is probably the intent of our discussion. Because if they're a current employee who doesn't have a criminal history, and now we want to see their criminal history for employment reasons or other related to their work performance, we may require them to submit to a criminal history background check, drug screen.
right, but I've never seen where the prospective employee is responsible for that.
Yeah. and
For the burden of that.
If the city is gonna be responsible for that, the city has to just be farmed, essentially. We require it, we probably should.
Exactly. So again, if it's a kids program we're hiring someone for or whatever, then yeah, I would think that we would want to go through some level of background check.
Especially if they don't have a guarantee of employment, now they gotta go pay for background check and then, oh, sorry,
Yeah.
you didn't get the job.
And you can get drug screens at the dollar store.
Speaking from experience.
Only because I have nieces and nephews.
Oh, that means you're not pregnant. Lung test.
Those are more expensive apparently.
Oh, wrong aisle. Sorry.
I think that I think we should cover that cost.
Okay, put that in.
But I'm one person, so.
I agree, if we were.
When I read this, I thought it was like, to me, it was like if they'd already had one done, fairly recently or something like that, that could be submitted. Criminal background check, for instance.
Right, and I don't think that happens really outside of, like in the private workforce, that happens only if the company is looking for it. In a government situation, maybe you do have to go apply for your own. I don't know. It was backwards to me.
Okay. I'm fine with that. long as we understand that we gotta have budget for it.
6.2, well, and again, I think the may
Yes.
need to be, I think it's a decision that the personnel committee can make on an as-needed basis. I don't think it has to be every employee.
Right. Kind of depends on also what they're doing, for instance.
Right,
Those
exactly.
working with youth,
Then we
probably a little more
we
important
need
than
to protect
somebody,
ourselves.
digging a ditch.
Right, and if it's someone driving a snowplow, then maybe we should do a drug test,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
So, all right, 6.2.
Chapter 4, I had a question.
Oh, go for it, yeah.
Employment status. So I know.
Where are we at, Katie, which one?
Chapter 4.
Yeah.
Just this is a general question here. So we have, Nate is an exempt employee, correct? Do we have any exempt employees? Okay.
None? Nate's not even?
Nobody has been defined.
So it's all
I guess I'll
hourly?
put it that way. Nobody's ever been defined as exempt or not.
Okay,
And there's only a couple of us that would even qualify under FLSA.
so everyone's hourly then?
And we're salary.
Okay.
Exempt only applies to the overtime.
Do we need
It's
to have,
usually more clearly defined that it follows these criteria, but, okay.
But where are you going with exempt on this, in chapter 4?
well, just because I've been in a position where I've been employed before and you were a salaried employee, so they didn't have to pay you overtime. But yeah, and they
Yeah.
kind of utilize that to my detriment. And so I think that it's an important protection to have in place to at least define it and say, we have these two classes and here's kind of what the difference is between the two of them,
I think what we've heard is we don't have defined exempt.
or non-exempt, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think this comes in though, further down in 11.6. Because there we talk about Fair Labor Standards Act, and there it's exempt or non-exempt.
Okay,
So, because I think chapter 4 is just appointed and probationary, which is different than exempt and non-exempt.
Okay, yeah, that's true too.
These are the only.
Yeah, so in 11.6, we do talk about FLSA stuff, and there is the exempt and non-exempt.
Well, the appointed are treasurer, recorder, judge.
Yeah. And so appointed is different than exempt or non-exempt because these are just stating that they don't have any merit status, no claim to their job if they were to be fired or released. They're just appointed.
so appointed is different than exempt.
It is.
Okay.
No problem.
And that was 4, right?
Yep, I don't have, oh, wait, maybe I do. Well, okay, I don't have anything on 5, so yeah, 6.
Do you have anything on
6,
David?
I don't. 6.2 though is my next. So 6-2, conflict of interest, the concern I have is that it doesn't go far enough. It says, at the very last sentence, says, for use for private gain shall be cause for disciplinary action. We have it in many other sections in this document. Why don't we also add or immediate termination? Why don't we have more teeth in this particular section like we do in others? It, not necessarily.
I don't have a problem with that.
It's the inconsistency we have. In other sections, we say immediate termination is a possible outcome. This one, we don't.
So you want to say disciplinary action or immediate termination?
Yes, I would like to add that. Just so that it's clear to the employee that, oh, it looks like I could get my hand slapped, but not necessarily actually be fired for it.
And you're saying to be consistent.
Yes.
Consistent's always good. Instead of going, now which chapter?
I know, it's like, well, this one I can get a disciplinary action, which don't know what that means. And then others, it actually, I don't know which ones for sure, but I know I read in there many times that termination was possible.
And I know like in some employee handbooks or in policies and procedures, it's standard to kind of put a discipline, like kind of progressive discipline schedule. And I know, and So was there, I mean, is that something that we're interested in? Why did we leave it out?
I asked the same question.
So like levels of discipline, like for instance, yeah, for instance, they have these weird little words like where I work, where you get a notice of caution, of letter of reprimand, those kinds of words where one is more serious than the other one. One could cause a few days off, We could have levels of those.
That gives us it gives us a good thing to follow, that we're consistent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so one employee, does something, we're like, oh, well, sorry, you're out. And then the other one's like, wait a sec, I didn't even get a warning. I mean.
Yeah, well, for instance, you could have something where, okay, 2 notice of cautions is equal to
Right.
the higher level.
So there's a
3 of
clear
them.
process.
Yeah.
If there
Right.
are problems,
I'm looking
that everyone
at-
gets the same treatment.
I'm looking at Moab's policies and procedures. It looks like they have a section dedicated to employee discipline.
So the current policy has steps.
I don't remember.
Oh, and while we're having this conversation, I wanted to ensure that we all understand that at 6:50, we're gonna suspend work session, go into our regular meeting, and then
Oh, we do have a discipline procedure.
reconvene as necessary.
Sorry,
Currently or in the-
in the new one. Okay,
Okay.
never mind.
Where is it?
It's 8, section 8, no? No?
Well, okay, you're right, but I have some concerns with that one as well. So can we jump back real quick before we get out of 6?
Yep.
So 6.5, we talk about outside employment. Do we have any situations like that currently?
I am unaware of any.
So as an example, doesn't Nate cover for other cities? Like other cities
Yes.
cover for us?
Yes,
And is that a contract opportunity or is that just sharing of resources?
I think it's more of a sharing of resources.
So
where
he's not a contract employee to the other cities that he,
I don't think so, because I don't think because like, for instance, when somebody covers for him, when he's out, we don't cut
Okay.
anything for them, so.
is covering, right? So I knew that was going on.
I can't say for sure for everyone that he covers for, because Trent doesn't have his commercial certifications, so any commercial inspections in Mary's City, he's doing, and I don't know if that's in trade for when Trent covers for us, or I don't know what the situation.
And so therein is my concern. How do we document this process? Even what's been proposed is not tight enough to document.
So are you concerned about them contracting out?
I just am concerned that we don't have a way to actually track what's happening. I'm not really concerned about it. I just think that it ought to be known, and what is the process to know that? It says upon notification of approval of the department supervisor and the mayor, they may engage in outside employment, but that's just so broad. So again, they may do it, but how do we document it?
Well, what would we do with the documentation, even if we had it?
Someone came and asked for it. They're like, so, because ultimately it's taxpayer dollars that are paying somebody else's salary or Nate's salary when he goes and works for another city. And I think that we should be able to report back on how those dollars were spent.
Yeah, I guess it depends on if he's contracted using Far West City time to go do his contract work, or if he's contracted and not using Far West City time. I contract with Far West City and I'm employed by Weaver County. There's no documentation to show anybody that I'm doing this other than I tell Chris Allred that I'm gonna do this in Far West City. And so, I mean, the documentation part, I guess, would just go to, at least the part I see about the documentation working for would just be to benefit the city, in that the state auditor can get as involved and say, hey, your employees, I mean, this goes, has anybody been following the news on the Cache County attorneys who got in trouble for this? Yeah, it's that kind of thing, where the state auditor said, if you're gonna have employees who contract out, you just gotta have it in policy that they can do that. Because otherwise people get annoyed with the taxpayer money, people paying money to an attorney to do two different jobs at once. So our office has a policy on it, the documentation though, I just don't know what we do with it.
Well, I would like me or a citizen asking the question to Andrea, and Andrea be able to say, oh yeah, here it is, it's documented, here it is. But right now, it's like, oh, we don't know.
Okay.
Because maybe the last mayor did approve something along with the department supervisor. But then there's turnover,
Right.
and then no one knows what's going on or what's been approved. And then it's like, well, now let's think about the employee's perspective. Well, the employee is now getting in trouble for something they're doing that they've been doing for 15 years and was approved by,
It was okay before.
it was okay before, but now they're getting in trouble for it because someone decided they wanted to get them in trouble for it. And now they don't have any protections. So it works both ways.
Yeah, it works both ways, I see.
You're kind of saying, just write it down.
Document it. It's not documented,
So you just
It
want to
doesn't
say.
have to be complicated.
You wanna
It just
say
needs to be
It
written.
can be as easy as upon notification and written approval of the
yes.
department head, would that do it?
And then I would recommend that the employee and the city both keep a copy of that written approval.
Sure, it's like,
Just to clarify, is that like all outside employment, or is it like only stuff that's should be done during city hours?
That's a good
Cause
question.
like Robbie does tires at night in his garage on his own time with his own stuff. Like, does he need to
No.
get that approved and documented?
I would say if he is a,
this reads, has something to do in which any manner interferes with proper and effective performance of official duties.
so you could argue that, Mayor. You could argue that if Robbie's staying up till 2 AM doing tires in his garage, he's not as effective at his day job.
But he could do that in his garage, even not as a outside employment, just staying up late.
Agreed, but it's different if you're a papered employee that has actual demands versus an employee or versus someone that's just doing it.
It's a gray area, Dave.
I know.
Telling them what they can and what they have to document after hours, I think that's.
So like, an example at my work, we have someone who we kind of contracts for another company after work, falls asleep at his job at our work. You know what I mean? Like,
And then that
right,
would-
'cause that's
yeah, I
interfering.
agree.
I'm not saying that applies here, but we just found out he does contract work. It's like, man, that makes a lot of sense.
So I'm really thinking more of if they're a papered employee at another business, I think the city has the right to know about it. Because then you know about the possible conflict.
I don't know that that's right. I don't know what they do in their spare time.
Well, again,
So.
is it in their spare time?
If it's
I
not
looked at
affecting,
all of there was a big list of like reasons for disciplinary action. So like, would like falling asleep, you know, if it's listed up in there, you can discipline them otherwise and not
Yeah.
necessarily say, you know, related to their outside job.
They might just be watching too much Netflix. And
Yeah, I don't love saying, determining what an employee can do on their off time.
Well, and again, I'm going back to, as an employee, I'd want that protection in place as much as I think the city deserves to have it on their end. Because,
so if you have an employee day and they're working full-time at a gas station and they do another job at another gas station, you wanna know?
they're not being paid by public funds. Taxpayer dollars.
And the other job is not, I mean, what they're doing on the side is not being paid by, if it was being paid by tax dollars from Slaterville or whatever, I could see that, but if Robbie's doing tires in his garage,
Well, and again, it really is more about this employee sharing, because if we do have that occurring and it's not being billed appropriately, then that's a concern.
I would agree more with the shared, like the city. If they're
The
employed
sharing
by
of
another-
inspectors or the
yeah,
sharing of
yeah.
resources,
I would say that's something we should.
Right now, I don't think there's any money to
right?
change. hands.
But I think it's okay to document that.
But, and I
We
think,
don't know.
I think we
Nobody
need to,
knows.
I think we need to have a policy that speaks to that. And, you know, so we can, if questions do arise, it says, well, we've thought this through, here's what the policy is, and here's the documentation that goes along with it, so we can report back to you.
I guess the gray area becomes concerning to me because if we do that and they have to get approval from the mayor to engage in outside employment and Robbie does tires in his garage, the mayor could say, no, you can't do that. And then Robbie wouldn't be able to do tires in his garage. And then Robbie would be able to say, you can't tell me what to do on my time off, after work, after hours. And then that would give him ammunition to actually come after the city and the mayor if they're preventing him from doing stuff on his own time after hours.
So can we say something, engage in outside employment, like specify?
I think we could say it by saying that I think it's already in here. Additional employment, which in any manner may interfere
Well, it says
with
no
the proper
employee
and
may
effective
engage in additional
performance
employment which in any manner interferes.
of official duties, right? So I think if we, I don't know, that's just a thought I had.
Well, and sometimes sharing is beyond just like inspectors and stuff like that. For instance, flood season. Sometimes we send folks up to help North Ogden with ditches. They're not in Far West.
And sharing, I'm 100% okay with. But if they're being paid by that
Do
city,
we got to document that they went to North
Yes,
Ogden?
we should be,
We
because
should.
then we can, if you don't have documentation, you can't get like FEMA funds.
Those are volunteers.
I think cities, if you
Okay.
can go back and get reimbursement for employee hours for
Okay.
that.
I think there's a difference in like offering your employees to someone and someone being contracted to another city for
Yeah.
obligated
services,
in a
right?
way, yeah.
Ongoing services.
Yes.
versus
Okay.
an emergency. My opinion, sorry.
So then on 6.5, I guess, going back, so we have upon notification and written approval, that's all in there. Are we going any further with the changes?
I'd like to see some written section here that talks about resource sharing between cities and contracting between employees between cities.
Being okay? Or being documented?
Yeah, I mean, having just a process, like it has to be approved in writing by the mayor or whatever. I mean-
Additional employment or contract services with another city.
So is contract services with another city, then are they getting, they're not getting paid for that? So then that'd be under the interlocal act anyways.
Right.
So
So it's really more about what they're getting paid for.
yeah, so if they're doing contract work for other cities, I don't know that we need to address that, because that's gonna be covered by the interlocal act, and I'd say leave it out.
Contract services that's outside of the city's purview?
No, if it's inside the city's purview, I mean.
The inside, fine, the interlocal covers that.
Yeah,
But if it's outside, that's what this is all talking about.
sure, yeah, okay, good, I'm just making sure.
Yeah.
So you're saying, we have an interlocal agreement that has those details if we send Nate to Plain City.
Right, that'd be all interlocal stuff.
Okay.
If Nate goes to Plain City to do road work or plow work or whatever, just like he does here at Far West City, that should be covered under the interlocal act, and that's all done.
Then I guess that will be a separate conversation, just making sure that those have clear language as to kind of, who's paying for what and.
Right, well, it's just like with the new code enforcement services we have here. Iris is coming down from Weaver County and she's getting paid by the city to do that. Well, the county is. They're sharing resources and sharing personnel, and that's all documented in the interlocal agreement.
And
You're
it is,
sure.
and their
Yeah.
payment, just to be clear, Nate goes to work, I'm just hypothetical, Nate goes to work in Plain City, he is getting paid just by Far West City.
Yeah, and if Plain City reimburses Far West City, not Nate, but Far West City, or however that works out, that's all fine under the interlocal act. It changes if Nate were to go to Plain City and Plain City were to pay him directly. That would change everything.
Do we leave ourselves open to that? Like, hey, I'm like, kind of double time with this?
But he's not getting paid by
Not
Plain
getting
City, yeah, so it wouldn't be a problem.
I think
He's-
how do you verify that that's not?
I would be okay with 6.5 as long as we put upon notification of a written approval.
So there's a documentation.
Yep, so there's a trail,
Okay.
so that we can always go back and at least say, well, this is in his file.
If you guys feel like, I mean, if you feel like the interlocal agreement covers us and and we know that it's not like you're on Far West time and getting paid additionally on top of that, then
Yeah, they're not doing that.
They aren't allowed under the interlocal act to get paid directly.
Okay, perfect.
Plain City can pay to Far West can pay to, the entities can pay to each other, but no employee gets direct payment.
But again, if there was a situation where an employee wanted to go be a contract employee on the off hours, that's where 6.5 takes care of it. Yeah.
Well, and here's an actual example. Nate is one of the only commercially certified inspectors. He was the one that did the inspections on the Amazon building because he's the only one certified to.
But was he paid for that? Right, just his salary.
Right.
Yeah, okay. That's all that matters.
Yeah, but that's one of the ways we share is
Right.
sometimes you need somebody who has the certs.
And I totally agree with sharing, because I don't want to have two inspectors.
No.
I'd rather have one that we back up with another city. Yeah.
If you need to call somebody for a certain inspection,
Yep.
then do that, because, you know, you don't want to put them on the salary and have them inspect something, you know, once a year.
Right.
Or whenever our new building is built or something, so.
All right, anything else in 6? 7.2B, my concern there is, why are we excluding heads of departments from this disciplinary process?
I think that I addressed this too, I think that they're only like they're not subject to the, securities and stuff. They can be terminated and just let go without.
And that wasn't clear to me as to how do we take care of a head of department if not by this process? What other process is there? But
They don't have the
But
right
is it-
to appeal is what I believe I understood.
but it's not documented anywhere that I'm aware of. I didn't read it
So
anywhere.
what we would need to do then, you might be right, it might not actually be documented. Department heads would need to be listed as appointed employees in the section earlier,
Yeah.
section 2 or 3.
Yep.
Because if they're appointed employees, then it takes care of that. Then they
Exactly.
can just be released.
So that was concern there.
Okay, good. I'll look and we'll just add that to the appointed section.
The other thing is, we have definitions for temporary or seasonal employee up above, but we don't have a definition for a paid on-call employee.
What chapter are we in? Sorry.
That'd be under
We
7.2E.
don't have anybody staff.
So then do we need that sentence?
I'm still.
Right here in E on the same, or paid on-call employee.
And we don't have any temporary or seasonal employees, is that what you said?
We do
We
the,
do have seasonal employees, we don't have any like paid on call.
Oh, okay, we can delete that.
She was just saying there's not a definition for paid on call,
Oh, yeah. Well,
but then you use it here.
if it, I see. So if it's not applicable, then we can just delete that. Does that work, Andrea?
Yeah.
Just delete it, okay.
Are we on 8?
yeah, 8.1.
Go ahead, I have a thing at the bottom.
Annual performance evaluation shall be conducted of all employees. Very broad, very vague. I don't know if that was intentional. Typically, it's a written annual, semi-annual, you know what I mean?
We do evaluations in writing. The department heads currently do it for the departments. And then Boyd and I do it for the department heads.
There's a form.
Sorry, does the whole TechNet section of policy not get put into this one? Because the TechNet thing had all of that about
Does it?
the
I don't
scale,
think
yeah,
that's
did it not,
right.
did it not?
It's not
go into
here.
This policy, okay,
So it's very, it
great.
just says that it will be done. That's all we have in this.
Yeah, no, in the old policy, it had to be done between this month and this month, and then it follows,
So maybe we just reference that?
well, we have to bring it over.
Yeah, we have to bring it over because we're gonna delete the old one.
Okay.
Okay, let's,
But yeah, that had very specific stuff.
And that's what we need, I think, for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if it is, documented and it's done, we have assignments as to who's doing it, needs to be in
Yes.
there.
and we keep track of those.
Yeah, so if you look at the personnel policy that's in there now, there's a whole section that talks about the TechNet for the annual wage adjustment, and then it talks about the evaluation there. Like when we do the salary surveying, when we do the evaluations.
So we'll just include the TechNet policy in the ordinance currently into here.
Yeah.
Into here.
Okay.
When you pull that out, or will you send it to us just so we can
So
review
it's
that?
online in the policies.
Okay.
for section 2.
Okay.
In fact, that's probably like what makes up the bulk of our current policy.
I have a question on recreational activities that on page 20. Some of those case studies that Cody brought to us when we first started having this conversation talked a lot about this, and one of those audit findings was specifically about recreational things going on as part of a conference. And I just wanted to make sure, Liam, that you felt like the language in this covers us and meet, for those, so we don't find ourselves in a situation like those cities.
Yeah, you're talking about the reimbursements, right?
Recreational activities.
Bottom of 8.2. Yeah.
I'm off the page from whatever you got.
That was.
So I was page 19.
I see.
So if they have a golf outing or that type of thing, is that what you're?
I think the specific case study was like they went to the NFR, but that wasn't considered they went to 3 performances and it was only one would have done. And I just want to make sure that this language is clear and it protects us from being in that situation.
I think it protects us because the last sentence does require but provides an advantage for the city. It can't just be pure enjoyment, going boating just for kicks while you're at a conference or something like that. If the city's going to get something out of it by the employee, it's good.
Does that one need to have written pre-approval, even if it's just like an email, or it just says with pre-approval? I don't know if that one's serious enough to raise to that level. I guess my preference would be written, because then we have a paper trail.
We could easily make it written. I think that's an easy and good change.
Pre-approved, they don't get reimbursement.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking of the employee. I would want that if I were the employee.
Well, right, because otherwise you say, well, so-and-so approved it. Oh, sorry, I'm not paying for that.
They're not here now. Yeah.
Okay. Now we're coming up against time, but
It's okay, we can reconvene after. How many chapters are there?
17.
17, right?
17?
We're halfway through.
So, yeah, 17. So 9.2, the eligibility on vacation accrual. The way it reads is that if they're hired the first 6 years or the first 6 months of the fiscal, they're eligible for 5 days.
oh no, we're on insurance 9-1.
Yeah, I didn't have anything. I skipped because I didn't have anything. Do you?
Oh, I did.
Okay.
What constitutes a family? It says 100% of premiums for full-time employees and family members.
The insurance plan, whatever you guys have for your insurance plan will dictate who qualifies as
If you
family.
have a husband, wife, and 1 child, that constitutes a family. It's the same cost as if you have 3 children or 5 children.
You're just saying like immediate family versus
Yeah,
like
once you
sister-in-law
have a
or.
child, you become a family, you're a
Then
family.
and family members as determined by the insurance policy.
Or you want to just say qualifying family members.
Oh, qualifying family members, yeah.
That way, in case there's another type of qualification somehow.
And if that changes, then we're still covered. Okay. Now you can go.
So the vacation eligibility, typically the way I see it done is that you earn per pay period. You get so many hours per pay period that you complete, versus this is the way it reads. You don't get a single day until you've completed your first 6 months. But then you read down on the next, if you're hired in the second 6 months, you're eligible for 10 days and upon completion of the 12 months continuous. So does that mean that we're literally not giving a vacation day until you've been there the 6 months and 1 day, or 12 months and 1 day?
Yeah, I think that's the way it's been. If I
That's
understand
the
it,
current policy.
yeah.
But is that the way we actually operate it? So if you get hired, you're not gonna get a vacation day for 6 months?
Yep, that's it.
You earn sick leave per pay period. In that first 6 months.
Why do we do it differently? Seems to me like we'd use the same equation and earn it the same way.
I've seen it both ways. So like where I work, it used to be that you didn't get anything for the first 6 months. And then after your first year, you got a week and then another week or whatever that is. Then they changed it to a accrual per pay period type of thing.
Yeah.
But
I think it's a preference thing.
Okay.
I mean, if you guys want to change it, it's changeable, but it.
My questions, just as, you know, here we talk about leave as days, and in sick, we talk about it as hours. In vacation or in holidays, it's talked about in days, like, and then in some instances, it's up to 5 days or 40 hours. And so is it, do we need to have a consistent, like, a day is 8 hours or a day is 6 hours, or, you know, what does a day mean, I guess?
There's 6 hours. It's clear, but then it doesn't matter if they're working 10-hour days or 6-hour days, it's still hours, but.
So I think
That's
this
my
section is gonna take a minute.
I think it is too. Are you guys ready to suspend until after the regular meeting?
Yep.
Okay, it's time to do the pit crew and rearrange the room.
So in our office in our handbook, we do a 90-day probation period, but they're not eligible for vacation. But that's true. Maybe they can do a probation period of some sort.
That's typically what you see. I would agree.
Right. They just can't use them. Yeah.
Nope, you're good.
You sure?
Yeah.
I can give you the corner for you then. Are these all coming off?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh. Probably mine. Now it's risky though. Do you guys? Thanks for watching online, boys. I appreciate that.
I was there.
Oh, Josh is.
Where's Josh at?
I'm guessing enjoying himself somewhere. Okay, so we still got 10 minutes, so if anybody needs to take a quick break. How you feeling?
I'm not sure I'm gonna stay long after, but
Okay,
join online, I don't know.
you're hitting a limit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Usually an hour and a half. No, it's good. We'll see. I don't think the meeting will be long today. You?
No, I don't.
Just see how that, this other one could go on for 2 more hours.
You're good.
Well, see what happens. How are you?
Hmm?
How are you?
Good.
Hey, on assignments, what were you thinking?
I'm just giving you an opportunity to make any changes.
What are you thinking on? What do you think you need best?
Great. You kind of have to look at an improvement, it's one of those things, improve it or stick around. You kind of get first dibs if you want to make any changes. If you don't want to make any changes, you got it.
Yeah.
Because, you know, like, for instance, public safety is public safety. It's still kind of like the theme.
You kind of make a commitment.
Yeah.
And so you make a commitment, maybe for 4 years, and so you have to change that.
No, I'm good with that, it's just some of the opportunities if.
It's good to bring in the bill for drop offs.
Yeah, sure.
So,
Then you kind of go, I can still help. Now we got 8 minutes. I'm gonna go find me some water.
So where is this from? Is that where Geneva's was from? Too?
Yeah.
They're so
This
cute.
is one piece, 2 days. I checked my calendar and I didn't get text about a park meeting, right?
I didn't get one either.
I was like, I hate reporting and being like, tell me we didn't have one.
I know, they didn't without both of us.
Well, I contacted them, but then I haven't seen them in fall. That's not like, not to say this.
Well, it goes. Maybe just be a little bit more patient. Man, it's so now. Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of work, like, for. Yeah.
You know,
John, like, you might not be able to do this. Another guy.
That's true. Need to be able to hear us? Okay.
I don't know if it's just like.
It'll be fine. But it doesn't sell. I won't.
Oh, okay.
No, I won't. I won't.
Yeah.
Where is my favorite? Yeah, this week, actually, next week will be perfect.
Okay, so someone, yeah, oh, see, I was the impression that, oh, gotcha. So that's still not ready. Oh, yeah. Bring that up.
I will bring that up.
Thank you.
Get you excited.
Oh, yes. When you talked to that fight, she was in the she called one of the lady who was the day of.
I know.
He's the one that just knows the wheelchair. That was cool.
I don't know. Speaking of
Anyway.
Yeah, I'll follow on that.
The guy walks in the room and people look like him. Take away all the stories. Yeah.
So now we're gonna start this. Well, last guy still. You got last guy still. Go home every night.
Still recovering, feeling better?
It's been better.
Full house.
That's what happens, Lou. You come late, you have to sit up front. Okay, 30 seconds. So we like starting on time, right?
Absolutely.
Hmm? Mic's on?
Thank you.
Okay, close enough. Okay. I'd like to call this meeting to order. It's city council meeting, September 7th. We had a work session before, calling this regular meeting to order. And we're going to start by having an opening ceremony with a pledge of allegiance led by Katie and an opening prayer offered by Janelle.
Please rise and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Father in heaven, we're thankful to be gathered this evening in our city council meeting. We're thankful for the residents who are participating and help us to have a good dialogue and understanding. Help us to do what's best for the city and its residents and to use our resources wisely. We're thankful for this beautiful community we live in and for the good people who live here. We say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you, Katie. Thank you, Janelle. Okay, we're going to get into comments, reports, and it is my honor to introduce our new senior center director, Roberta. Will you please come up? We're starting right off with you, Roberta, so come on up. Yeah. Yes, up here by the microphone. It's because we need to be able to record anything you say. Okay.
Okay.
Would you like to introduce yourself? I'll start. This is Roberta. She's our senior center director now, and I just wanted to introduce her to all of you.
Roberta Hudson, and I would like to ask all the city council if they would like to help out with our senior dinner serving September 20th, 5 o'clock.
Yes.
Yes,
What time?
from 5 to 7, and there's entertainment.
There's entertainment.
Yes.
Thank you. So can you come up and introduce yourself and you put us right to work, huh?
Yes.
Okay,
Well, that's what happened to me.
I know. Okay, does anybody have any questions for Roberta?
Excited to have you, and thanks for taking on the task.
Okay, well, thank you.
And this is, and you know Katie. Katie is the liaison for the senior center, so you can bug her anytime.
Okay,
It's good
I may
news.
do that.
If it's bad, go to him.
Do you have any questions for these fine folk?
Not at the moment.
Okay, thank you for coming and putting up with all of us.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome. Okay, next item is public comments. Anybody in the public like to offer some comments? Come on up, Mike. You know the routine. Introduce yourself. We don't need your address.
I don't know who I am. My name's Mike Beal. Lived in Far West for 22 years. And I'm gonna have the movers come tomorrow and pick up some of my junk, and I'm gonna move down to Farmington. So I thought I'd like to come by and say, see you in the next century. It's sad to move, but I can't take care of my place by myself. And I don't want to strap my kids and grandkids with the work.
Well, we appreciate your service that you've offered the city.
It's, you know, a good 20 years I made it to these meetings, and I've just been too busy to come last couple of meetings. Anyway, thank you all. This is the biggest crowd I've seen, I think. You know? Welcome, you people that are new. Oh, that guy sitting back there, I've seen him before. And that guy sitting there. Anyway, thank you
Thank you, Mike.
guys.
Mike, we'll miss you.
Love
You
you
can
all.
still come back.
And keep up the good work.
Thank you. You're always welcome to come back and visit.
Don't be a
I might do
stranger.
that.
You know where.
I might bring a cookie next time.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mike. Okay, any other public comments? Oh, moving on. Report from Planning Commission, Madam Chair.
That never gets old. Okay, first off, thank you for the work session today. That was great, and sorry to snag in on your other stuff, but that helps us wrap that up finally. So, okay, 2 weeks ago, we had a work session about a potential mixed use behind, I'll use the location this time because I think I messed some of you guys up, 1800 North and 2175 West. So we gave them some insights, some comments, and they're going back and reworking some things, and we'll come back to another work session, which I will invite you guys to. We held a public hearing for and accepted a rezone for 1246 North 2000 West from an R115 to a C2 zone. That one adds a portion that was residential. They've added into their commercial site plan. It cleans up the spot. So it was pretty simple. And then they'll come through in our meeting next week for site plan approval and subdivision approval. So they're moving forward very nicely. Then we tabled a public hearing request, and then we moved forward on the final approval for phase 4 of the Hart subdivision. We cleared all those problems up, and then you'll see them tonight on the agenda. And that's it.
That's it.
That's
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Any concerns with any of these that are before us tonight, though? Anything we need to know outside of what?
Concerns? No, the rezone's really clean. And then phase 4, we cleaned up everything. There were some concerns with some small lots, but we dug into that, and it was approval based on the widths of the road that we gave. Trying to think who the developer is, Cecil, but they have an LLC name. They gave a larger 66-foot right of way before our intended bridge and larger road in lieu of the smaller lots. So that let them under the old ordinance, which they do not have to stick with the new one that went into place to have the 1,400 square foot house footprint. We worked that all through with Nate and Matt and cleared all of that up. We cleared up the grading and how the city will own and dedicate the ground that will lead to the eventual bridge. And if you read in maybe his memos review or even on the plans, we've decided that the city will own that ground, but they'll let and have agreements with the lot owners to let them use it, potentially fence it, use it as all under the understanding that when we call it due, they have to take care of it, but when we call it due, that then it needs to be given back to the city in preparation for the fence.
Okay.
Or sorry, for the canal.
The bridge.
Bridge, yeah. I think that's it. Those are
Thank
the
you.
only two. They were pretty clean.
Okay, thank you.
Love it.
And before you go, our next item happens to be assignments and direction for the planning commission.
Yes.
Do we have any new items for these folks?
I hope not. We have oh, good.
I'd love to brainstorm. I know you've floated this a few times, but floating some ideas and getting the conversation going around how we identify and document interior dwelling units. There's got to be somebody out there that's done it before that can give us some lessons learned and kind of, or best practices, or don't do this. And so maybe just kind of starting the conversation and maybe doing some preliminary research on that.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny, I had a conversation with another city a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about that, and they have more of a nightly rental problem, but there's actually services that go out and you can hire them to track things down.
Oh, wow.
And once again, geared more towards nightly rentals because they can search online, they can search things. So I don't know, but it might be an avenue. Maybe we can start getting some ideas.
Yes.
So,
Perfect.
okay. I'll maybe shoot me an email and maybe we can start that
Because the
conversation.
intent of the internal accessory dwelling units is to help with the moderate income housing situation. And it's actually good for the city to report those so we can count those and we won't be, I'll call it, forced into
Well,
solutions that we're not prepared for and
Right.
don't really want.
Well, and even with hearing that there's services, I just Googled rentals in our area and a rental in my neighborhood pops up, a monthly rental or yearly, however you want to do it, but things like that. So I'm sure we can start that direction.
Okay.
The other thing is, from assignment wise, this mixed use piece is gonna be a pretty big undertaking. So that's gonna take us the next couple months
That's
to
it.
help move that through.
Development agreements and plans and all of that fun stuff is gonna take.
And that will take a lot of part of you guys too, making sure we're on the right path, making
Yeah.
sure that we're all in the same direction. So
I feel like we may have some working sessions on that.
multiple,
Okay.
yeah. This poor guy over here is gonna hate us at the end, but.
No, because he'll get what what he's looking for.
You stopped yourself real quick there.
Yeah, no, he's not making, yeah, be careful what I say, yeah. No, thank you. Okay. Consider approval of minutes dated August 17th, 2023.
I'll make a motion, we approve the minutes.
Second?
Okay. Katie and Dave are, motion and second. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Consider approval of bills dated September 6th, 2023. Okay, Boyd and Janelle are motion and second. All in favor, say aye. Okay, any opposed? Okay, those all pass. On to business items. Consider approval of business licenses. So Black Watch Armory, Matt Weatherman, or Worthman. Is he here? Come on up. Hey, please share with us what you're up to, and then these guys will maybe ask a question or two.
The plan is to firearm transfer. Initially, that's basically it. Firearm or lower receiver transfers at the moment is the base level plan.
What does that mean, transfers?
A buyer buys something online, it has to be transferred to a federal firearms license owner, and that's what I am. And so then I do background check with the BCI, background clears, they get approved, it gets transferred to them.
Do you already have a license?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that was one of the questions, because I don't think it wound up on the application.
Yeah,
Matt,
just,
one-
yeah.
One of my soapboxes is, Is this gonna change the look of your neighborhood? Are there
No.
going to be people in and out of there? Or are you going to have deliveries?
No, this is really small, for now. Mentor told me, start small, succeed, scale bigger. This is very small and very beginning right now, so, from a little bit of research I did, projected total of number of cars for the remainder of this year, less than 20. So,
As you get bigger though, what does that look like? I mean, you get
Uh,
business license. But again,
it won't be
you
in
want to
far
protect
west,
your neighbors.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, it will not affect the neighborhood. I had thoughts of that too, talking with the ATF about this. My eyes were opened a little bit, of course, going through that process. And the intention is not to be really big in this location.
Ship the firearm to you and then you distribute it or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So they have to come and pick that up.
Yeah, yep, background check has to be done there. Like I said, I will call BCI. If it's denied, transfer isn't complete, and then.
As far as the neighbors are concerned, you have friends.
So average transaction time, you think, as far as how long they'll be in your driveway?
For concealed carry license holders, it's very quick, less than 30 minutes probably. For those that aren't, it's a little bit longer. We're talking minutes. So it's pretty quick, but again, just dependent on their background, of course.
Right.
And again, I'm not anticipating doing any firearms right now because there is a thing, like I said, my eyes were open because if you become a FFL and you were to share that with a distributor, manufacturer, Boyd could order something online and tell him to send it to me and it would just show up on my doorstep. That was not my intention in the beginning, so I will not be venturing down that avenue in this location. So it'll probably just be bringing in lower receivers for AR-15s and then distributing them to approved buyers.
Okay, any further questions?
Make a motion that we approve the business license for Black Watch Armory.
I'll second it.
Okay, Dave and Boyd, our motion in second. We'll do this roll call. Dave?
Aye.
Boyd?
Aye.
Katie?
Aye.
Janelle? Okay, congratulations.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Okay, next business license, Asphalt Construction and Excavating Company, Clayton Monahan. How are you?
Good.
You already kind of saw the routine here,
Yep.
so,
I'm starting an asphalt business.
okay,
Paver, roller, equipment. Not gonna be in my neighborhood. Leasing space from Ogden City, actually, to park all the equipment, trucks, crews. That'll all be there. All the office and administrative stuff's gonna be done at my house.
And I noticed that he has his construction license, he has his state license, so everything's in order there.
You heard, we don't want to change the neighborhood.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so you're not gonna have a truck pull up to an employee coming in to talk to you or anything like that?
You'll probably get that every once in a while, but like I said, I'm paying good money to lease space from Ogden City and even a building, so most of that's gonna be done there. This is just home base and easy for my wife to do the books and everything at the house, so instead of a cold building, so.
she'll probably help you make sure that you're not bringing a lot of equipment and parking it.
Absolutely.
I'll just echo that all equipment, storage and parking and needs to be not done in your neighborhood.
Oh, for sure.
Okay, any further questions? Motions?
I make a motion, we approve the business license for Asphalt Construction and Excavating Company.
Second?
Okay, Katie and Dave, our motion is second. Roll call, Janelle?
Aye.
Katie?
Aye.
Boyd?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Okay, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, TEK Systems Solutions, Scott Chandler. Is Scott Chandler here? Anyone want to make a motion of one sort or another?
I'll make a motion that we table until we have representative from Tech Systems.
Okay. Dave and Boyd, motion and second on tabling. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Can I
Okay.
ask a quick question?
Yeah.
On the residential business license fee, it's $30, but on the amount paid, it says 15.
Oh, so after July 1st, per the ordinance, we cut it in half.
Oh, okay.
Because all of our licenses expire December 31st. So then they have to renew in January.
Okay.
Gotta go half
So the
price.
Second half of the year.
Thank you.
So if you're gonna start a business, start it after July.
You get the discount for 6 months. Well, you get the same. Okay, next one is the White Rose Events. Roberto Molina. How are you?
Hey, how you doing?
Good. Okay, I think you've seen how this works. You want to explain what you're up to and
Yes.
be ready for questions?
Sure. So we are a small events. We host weddings, small corporate gatherings, holiday parties, things like that. Our event space is about 5,000. It used to be the Liberty Hall. So now we're converting it over, yeah. So it's already there, kitchen and everything. So we just kind of just saw the opportunity and moved on it. So it holds about 100 to 150 people.
Are you planning on serving food or alcohol at
No
any of
alcohol.
these?
Nope.
Um,
License.
and we've never approved like a food establishment. Is there other like requirements to go along with that?
Well, this is an event type of thing. I'm sure they have to.
Yeah, so they would go through like a catering or something like that.
Yeah, then just be aware that any, if you decide to opt for alcohol sales, that has to go through a different license process and has different parameters with it.
One of the things that the fire district has asked is that that they do a survey of the building before they had the fire, or have you had anybody from the city or inspector out there to look at the things and make sure? I know that's relatively new. I mean, it hasn't been, Liberty Center's only a couple years old, I think, so, but recommend that we,
Make sure it's still the code.
Yeah, definitely. I think that was my next move.
everything that you need that way. So,
Okay, so subject to inspections.
Yes,
What
yes,
about-
that is the next step.
Parking, you have enough parking for that many?
I believe we have 50 spaces, so that's more than enough for 100 people.
commercial area and
Yeah.
a lot of parking.
Mhm.
Sorry, I can't, it's tiny on my screen, so I can't pull up the address.
We're on the front too, so we don't have to like move anyone behind or anything like that. It's just right in the front. And then the landlord gave us the option for everybody to park on the side. So it's on the weekend, so most businesses aren't even open.
I am gonna ask this question. Are you gonna leave Liberty Hall up the facade?
I thought about it, but unfortunately, no.
We're gonna lose our Liberty Hall,
Yeah,
our own Liberty Hall.
I'm sorry about that. Yeah, I wish I could keep the name, but
I understand that, but it's just a nice landmark.
I know, yeah, that's what everybody told me, but unfortunately,
You can't figure out how to Liberty Hall the event.
maybe the package, we'll have a package called Liberty Hall.
There you
Liberty
go.
Hall package, gold standard right there.
That has nothing to do with your approval. It's just, I'm curious because, you can see it from a long ways off and it's kind of cool that we have that. Okay, are there any other questions, concerns, or motions by the,
I'll make a motion to approve the White Rose Event Center with the stipulation that he gets inspections done by Nate Carter, our inspector, and Weber Fire District.
okay, there's a motion by Boyd.
Second.
I think I heard Janelle.
Rock, paper, scissors?
Rock, paper, scissors. It was close. So Boyd and Janelle, motion and second. Dave?
Aye.
Boyd?
Aye.
Katie?
Aye.
Janelle?
Aye.
Okay, congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, consideration and action on final approval of the Far West Station subdivision Dominion Energy. We have a representative. Are you the same guys ripping up our roads?
I'm not that guy.
Okay.
I'm Kevin Mulvey representing Dominion Energy.
Okay. So, Explain.
They're like a staff report or something that we got approved
Subdivision.
by planning commission, and we are dividing the Beckstead property right there on 1200 West where it meets up with the railroad.
Okay, so this was one parcel, now it's becoming two, is that, I understand?
Three, actually, there's a little third one that we're gonna deed to the owner, you see there on the south. It kind of, they've been using it as their yard, and so we're just gonna deed that over to them, just to clean that up. But we're the lot in the middle, and there's a bigger lot one.
Does this actually go all the way to the proper line and actually consume what was the railroad right away?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so that does no longer connects? Or will no longer connect as it has been?
I don't understand the question.
How it's been.
Divided, it's all one parcel now that we're dividing into
Right.
3 parcels, right? That doesn't exist, the right of way doesn't exist.
There are folks that have considered that a certain access through there and an easement type of thing. I guess that's gone.
Well, no, there's still action on that, and we won't, and that was a question, if we get approved, I know Lindsay's not here, but as far as getting it recorded, we have to wait for, there's some litigation on that backside still, but we're just going for our actual approval, so we'll be ready to go when that gets settled.
So my big question that came up in planning commission last time was that easement that our engineers recommended that we have, but I know you guys didn't want, but I don't love that now we don't have an easement through that. Like if we approve this, there's no easement
And
on
I-
that along 1200.
I am also equally as concerned about the lack of a public utility easement along the east side of the lot too. I mean, that means if any other new utility or new provider wanted to come in, that we would be forced, what would we dogleg around your property and into the city?
Where are they now? Because that's pretty developed already. So that was our question, and we weren't represented well on the comments. It's mostly more of a security issue. We'll certainly entertain other utilities, but you got to understand we have a secure site, and we just can't have people marching through there. So, but we'll certainly entertain having other utilities come through there. But just by nature of what it is, a secured facility with natural gas.
There is a gas line, another gas line going through there too, isn't there?
Well, it's constructed now. Our site is already constructed.
But I believe the public utility easement existed when you
That's-
had preliminary site approval.
But, sorry, let me cut in. Matt said that there are currently no utilities in it. And then they went through all the motion, but like there is nothing in it. So, and I believe they did it right over here on this station too. You had the little public easement vacated as well for this one that's right off of Criswell Road.
But
So there are no utilities currently in it. So Matt was like, that's fine. If there were utilities in it, you would have had to gone to each of them and get it vacated, but there's no utilities in it.
Okay, so there's still action on the overall easement.
But I don't know.
We're talking 2 different things.
Yeah, I don't know if there was an actual easement on that property, a public utility easement that ran across the front of 1200 West. I don't believe.
When you did the original construction?
No, I don't think, so on the plat, usually there would be one, and they were asking for it not to be there, and Matt okayed it, there are no current utilities in it that house it, there's nothing that needs to be there essentially.
Well, it says, oh, okay.
You read the letter.
I mean, so say a fiber company comes in and wants a new fiber provider and wants to install through there. I mean, who's our point of contact at Dominion Energy? And who when we want to start those conversations?
You can certainly call me. They have my information. And like I said, we're not opposed to that. We just, it's just not normal practice for us. Obviously, it was vacated on the site just right over here as well. But we'll entertain that. I mean, we're a public utility. We like to be good neighbors and play nice, but just for the nature of the site, I mean, we're not saying, no forever. We're just saying because of the nature of the business, we just would prefer not to have, public utilities having their way with us.
You don't want them like drilling through your.
Right.
But again, Katie, here's the thing, they have a massive gas line there. Who cares about fiber at the end of the day? If someone drills into that gas line,
We got bigger.
I just don't want our sidewalks that we've paid for having, and our roadways getting torn up and us having to foot the bill for it.
But they'll have to work that out, and if the fiber company wants to come in, they would have to pay for that replacement, that's on them. It would never come back to us to have to go replace something they tore up. And they can bore into the asphalt now, they can pull, they can do all of that.
Okay, any more questions, concerns, motions?
How do you, how does the rest of the council feel about this?
I'm probably more concerned about the protection of that pipeline than I am a utility easement. I mean,
Okay.
that's probably where I would, just because of any potential damage that would be devastating for our community. So,
And the actual easement along the railroad, that's still up in the air, is that correct?
Yeah.
The railroad easement, or you're talking about the
Yeah.
access easement? No, I don't think the railroad has anything to do with
Railroad.
it anymore.
Okay, I call it that because that's what it was originally. That's where the
And
transcontinental.
people
Railroad-
started using it and it became an access to them, and how much they really use it, that's what's being worked out right now.
That's what I was asking, so that's still being worked out.
Right, and we'll take, and we won't take any ownership of it. We're working under an exclusive easement currently. We're just going through the process so that when the judge puts the gavel down, we can close out everything and obtain our parcel.
So you'll have to wait on this until the litigation's over?
Say that
You'll
again?
have to wait on this until the litigation's over? You just are looking for approval for the,
Right, wait on recording the plat. Yes, that's correct. And that was a question when we were all done here. I was gonna ask, what's the timing on, say we get approval tonight, to record a Mylar, because obviously we gotta get a Mylar to the city and get it signed by everybody. Is there a limitation on that? I mean, hopefully we'll be done in 90 days, but you never know how these things go. But I just don't know if there's a clock that ticks when
I
we get
don't think
approval.
there's a shot clock on.
Okay.
something like
1 year.
1 year,
They can come back in and get,
that. Okay.
an extension or something, or,
yes, but they have to do it before the 12 months.
perfect.
Okay,
That-
12
that-
months.
Sounds good.
They're the knowledgeable people. We're just,
You're just a face of
we
this.
just have authorities. I have none. Okay, so any other questions, comments, and or motions?
I'll make a motion to approve make the final approval for the Far West Station subdivision for Dominion Energy.
Have a motion.
You guys are worried about the easement still?
Can I make another comment? Am I allowed to impute a motion? Make Katie feel better?
Sure.
Okay, so a public utility easement, they don't have to notify you when you go into it. And that's their worry. So a fiber company could come in with no notification, put a line in, put a, whatever, and they would not know and could hit something. So in this, they're not saying that they won't ever let anything there. It requires they have to notify them. So it's a safe, think of it purely as safety.
that makes more sense to me. Like, I didn't realize they could just come in.
Yeah.
Like, of course you want to coordinate that.
You're experiencing it in your neighborhood right now. They're coming in and putting Comcast in.
A new provider.
Any provider, anyone.
No, we would have to have a franchise agreement with.
Well, but it could be power, it could be anything that wants to run in that public utility.
Yeah, they have an existing agreement.
It's anyone that's in the public utilities, and yes, but they wouldn't have to notify. They would basically, and that's what they're trying to stop, is saying, hey, you have to understand, we have a high pressure line here, you have to notify us, and we have to work through the installation.
Because there would be no easement, so it's not given.
Eliminating anyone from getting there. That make you feel a little better?
A little bit.
I'm not, yeah, sorry.
Hey,
I'm just trying to explain it.
thank you.
That's a good point, because more than likely, if someone came to us, they would have to get in like an exclusive easement where it was only them, so we just didn't open it up. And if the fiber company, since you brought that up, maybe they bore underneath, bore through, which they easily could, and then they could run their fiber line through a conduit. So, I mean, we're not opposed to that, don't get me wrong. It's just, like she explained it very well, as far as just have an open season for people to come on there in a secured site.
I'll give a second.
Okay, we have a motion by Boyd, a second by Katie. Do this roll call. Janelle?
Well, Geneva changed my vote to an aye.
Hey, Katie?
Aye.
Boyd? David?
I have a conflict of interest, so I'll recuse.
Okay, thank you.
That's why you weren't talking.
Sorry, I thought about talking, or just explaining that, but, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Consideration and action on the request for a rezone of Cameron Watson property parcel 1577000001 located at 1246 North 2000 West from R115 to C2. Jordan Watson, which is not Cameron Watson, but that's okay.
Hi, Jordan Watson. We are seeking a rezone of this residential property to C2 so that it can be a part of our adjacent C2 project to the south of it.
This has been the process. Correct me if I'm wrong, but we've gone through all this and corrected and rezoned, and this is the last step of the
Yes,
process.
their final decision is all commercial. Would that be a good way to put it?
Yeah, there should be is there any more documents
I think there's
in that
another
file?
site plan.
There we go.
That's our site plan. The parcel outlined in the highlighted yellow there is the parcel that we're seeking.
That's
to
the only
rezone.
parcel that's R115 out of this whole
Correct.
thing. Okay.
And when we did the conditional use for this piece, and was that parcel included in that? Will we need to? Will we?
Originally, it was, the building was shifted over, and the two that you see on the north side were 40,000 square foot building. So no, the conditional use was not part of this.
So I'm sorry to do this to you,
The
but
conditional use is tied to the other parcel.
so would he need to get that conditional use approval following the rezone of this parcel?
That, or they may just halt on that, because now they've changed the building itself, they got the conditional use, they'll have to come review it and redo that.
There's still a whole site plan process.
So they'll come, at some point, that'll all come back when they're ready for tenants and stuff, and I'm speaking for him, but I assume that's his plan.
She's saying it better than I could.
There you go.
She is the chairwoman.
We'll just get used to seeing your face.
Oh, she's been great.
Okay.
If there's no discussion, I'll make a motion that we approve the rezone for the Cameron Watson property, parcel number 15-770-0001.
I will second.
Okay. Boyd and Katie, your motion second. Dave?
Aye.
Boyd?
Aye.
Katie?
Aye.
Janelle?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Passes unanimously. Congratulations, and yeah, we'll see you again. Consideration and action on final approval of Hart subdivision phase 4. Cecil?
Cecil Satterthwaite with Vallejo Management. Hart subdivision, our fourth phase, I think Geneva explained it pretty well. The main issue is kind of the extension of 2900 north going to the east. So that will be dedicated to the city. And in the future, if a bridge ever does go across there, that will be in place. So,
And that'll be on their plats
yes.
with that. Okay, I remember that conversation.
And I assume that Matt did this but he accounted for any profile, and elevations for the
That's the
bridge that
crosshatch.
would,
Yes.
and so that gives them plenty of space to work within to accommodate that.
Yeah, there's also an easement there for fill on both of those lots
That's marked.
if they need that.
To ensure all of that.
And you were saying that would be fenced off, or is it just you sell it, or? But
We'll put a note on the plat that those two lot owners can maintain and use it, but no structures can be built. But it will still be city property, and we'll have that.
And that will mean, okay.
Yeah, so they know that that's a possibility that will come through, so.
Okay, any further questions?
I'll make a motion that we consider final approval of Hart subdivision phase 4.
I'll second.
Okay, Dave and Boyd are motion and second. Janelle?
Aye.
Katie?
Aye.
Boyd?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Okay,
Thanks.
finally finaled there, Cecil.
What's that?
Finally finaled.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, report on assignments. Here's our favorite part. I'm gonna pick on Janelle to start with.
Well, we didn't have a parks meeting this week. We didn't have planning commission last week, so I don't have a whole lot today. Trying to think if I'm missing something. Not that I can think of.
Okay. Katie?
Same boat, very little to report back on. I had talked to Matt Robertson about the library property, and he was wondering, the soccer organization is interested in putting together a proposal, but wanted to know if we would like to meet with them first to kind of give them like a rundown, or just have them send us a proposal.
I wouldn't mind meeting with them.
Okay, I will set that up for our next parks meeting.
Okay.
And then, I saw your email about the workshop for the WFRC CBDBGBG grant stuff. And, I can plan on attending that.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, if we have somebody in attendance, that makes us eligible regardless of what we do. It's always good to get. What else you got?
That's it.
That's it? Boyd?
I don't have much. We have fire district next week, and there's a few meetings coming up this month that we'll be looking at. There's some things going on with CERT. We're taking some inventory, looking for some storage on where to put that inventory, but it depends on what they actually have. So that's about all I have right now.
Okay.
Okay.
Dave?
We also have a mosquito meeting coming up on Monday, so I'll have something to report mid-month. And other than that, just working on the softball tourney, trying to get a team together for that to represent the city. That's it.
Okay, thank you. And you guys are gonna be surprised as can be. My WACOG is next week. I missed the Bona Vista meeting because I was golfing for some reason. And that all the legislative policy committee stuff is starting soon, but not started yet. And the only thing I did have was what Katie said about CDBG grants. So that is my report. Oh,
Trunk or treat. Yes.
trunk or treat. Okay, folks that are celebration people, are we doing a trunk or treat?
Yes, I,
Is it Josh doing that?
yeah,
Yeah.
No, seriously, I mean, it wasn't, that was.
yeah, that was my assumption, but it's probably better to clear that up with, make sure that we're all on the same page.
So we'll pick on Josh when, like, real soon, like even before our next meeting. Because even though it is just September.
It'll be
Do we have a preferred date?
I think we did select a date early in the year.
Like the Saturday before something, wasn't it? Or
Your
Monday
Saturday or Monday or,
Oh, let me tell you.
what's 3 of the 7, so we better pick one.
Celebration schedule.
Actual Halloween is on the 31st, which is a Tuesday.
So we've actually moved this to a Friday, October 27th.
Okay, and we're gonna remind Josh of that and help him along with. And of course, any help that he needs, we will help, right? Okay. Okay, anything else?
Do we adjourn this meeting where we're gonna be writing together? Or-
We can adjourn this meeting and reconvene our work session, so.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Okay, got a motion by Dave, second by Boyd. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, and we're going to reconvene in our work session. Thank you all. You guys want to sit up here or go back down there?
Oh, I don't care.
Let's go back down.
Okay, let's go back down there. Yes.
In the process of doing some of the stuff we are with the M1, had an occasion to look at the landscape requirement for M1. And I noticed that it's virtually identical to the same requirements we had on the C2. we've modified the C2, you've approved it. We never went back and made any changes to M2, even though the two were basically identical initially.
Doesn't one refer to the other?
No, no.
No,
They're
it's
two
okay.
independent.
There's sections that refer to the other.
Well, actually, we need to basically, we haven't got the assignment from you, but I think it'd be just a good exercise to look what we've done in C2, look what presently is in M1. with
And make a
very minor
decision.
changes, modify the M1 so that it
Okay.
matches. Because there was water conservation issues, there's clarification of what is landscaping, what is not landscaping. So you haven't given us that official assignment.
Okay.
But I'm just mentioning that because I noticed. Also, I got on the website, and looked at the current municipal code, and maybe I'm not accessing the right thing, but it didn't show the current version of that, the landscape requirements for C2. Is there some ridiculous lag?
There is some ridiculous lag. Sometimes when you go onto their site, they show the pending ones that have not been yet posted.
This thing,
Unfortunately, we'll get with them and make sure that they do. Yeah, there are. I'm gonna go look in the pending to make sure it's there because, you know, what's official is what we've passed, but what's posted is what people see.
Plenty to do with conditional use, this other stuff, but just so that we have the blessing, this is an exercise I personally would like to go through because I did the other one. It's a relatively simple process, but it should be consistent.
Okay, no, that's fine.
I would have noticed it if I hadn't gone in there and started messing around with conditional use for another reason.
Right.
And I looked at it and I thought, whoops.
And maybe that can kind of tag it with that a little bit, right?
We just put it all in that package.
Right, exactly. And sounded like Geneva didn't want anything more. No, absolutely.
Right, of course, because it's not paid, so I directly related to.
Hello, David.
How we doing?
Good to get you up here.
Yeah, he was down with one. I told you I wanted to go. I mean, one way or another, this is negative.
It'd be good.
Okay.
Yes. It'll be clean. Yes. Hey. Now let's do a more Yeah. Well, I'm usually here on Monday, but the last couple of Mondays has been different kinds of Mondays. Like a holiday, and then I got commandeered into golfing for the Republican GOP. We were trying to be Republican. Who did you golf with? Well, I actually golfed with Mayor Allen, and then an assistant for Senator Romney, who's the one that sponsored the team. And then it was supposed to be Gage Farr, but he decided to create his own team, so we were one short. So I happened to be getting ready to tee off and said, "Want to golf with us?" And he did. So it was good. Okay.
We're down one.
At least we left his stuff. We know he's coming back.
It could be Dave.
Dave.
Yeah.
That's all of us, right?
Get up. I'm not touching you.
This arm is still working.
Okay, work away.
You're You're welcome to stick around for the work session if you
I do
want.
want you to know, there was a meeting over at the sheriff's office a week ago regarding the expansion plans, and they want to do, there'll be a bond election.
Mhm.
Bob, Lynn, and I were both there. That was your representation from Far West. There was no one else there from Far West.
I was online.
There was no one in the room, so you heard the presentation and saw it.
Yeah, he's our public, safety representative.
Thank you for being there.
Bob and I were in the room. I met him, he met me. We kept our mouths shut and let people who wanted to get into the weeds, get in the weeds, talking about homelessness and everything else. And that was irrelevant.
They're generally.
Their main concern right now is mental health. They don't have the facility or the capacity to deal with incarcerations or detentions that have to do with people who are mentally ill.
And they're struggling with those deaths and all those things going on with that.
So, it was an interesting meeting, we went along with it, we thought it was good.
They always do.
I thought you'd like to know.
Thank you.
There was some representation there.
Appreciate you
Much
much.
unofficially.
You're just getting ahead of the game. Overachiever. Okay, here, we're back. Is everybody okay with starting back up?
Well, let's do it.
Where were we? 9-2.
9-2.
So again, it just comes down to the accrual policy. I personally would like to see them match sick and PTO. Because
As long as the math all ends up being the same line, right?
Why do we have sick and PTO? Why can't
I
it
don't
be
understand that
one?
one either. That's old school policy.
Tradition, okay, I don't wanna tell you the story about the two horses bus, but I could. It's because it's always been that way. That doesn't mean it can't change, but that's, if you wanna know why, that's why.
This is like, I mean, I think that that's the way, sorry, Mike, I think that's
We switched
the,
to a league.
that's the way companies are going. I think that's the way like the market is trending, and I think that, you know, and it just makes it cleaner and straightforward to do leave,
PTO.
PTO.
Accrued.
Approved.
Yeah, because then for
Approved, but
6
then-
months, if you have an emergency, you can't technically take any PTO, but if you were accruing it, you would at least have some time.
So basically, you would accrue during that first 6 months.
Well,
The
a lot
same
of
number.
places do a probationary period,
Yeah.
so you
Sure.
can't take leave within the first 90 days. Like, that's kind of a probationary. I don't know if there's any laws that's for or against, but I think we're talking two different things here now. We're talking accrual versus
Oh.
having two different time bases, meaning there's vacation, PTO, what we're calling it, and then there's also sick leave.
Sorry, I jumped into that.
Yeah, so-
Jumped over that, go back to.
Yeah, so.
Sick leave is accrued, right?
Right, but I think Katie's making the point of why do we still have the two categories instead of just breaking it, collapsing it down to one?
I
and calling
think
it
truthfully, because the state of Utah does it that way, and every other entity has done it that way. And if you stop doing sick leave and PTO,
Mhm.
and if you, because usually when you stop doing sick leave and PTO, you cut down the amount of time people accumulate. Instead of, because if you accumulate 4 hours of sick leave and 4 hours of PTO every pay period, usually when they change, they say, okay, let's just do 5 hours of accumulated leave, and then the employees have a fit. Which I think is why it's tradition that it's gone on forever, sick leave and PTO, because if you change it, then you either gotta keep it, well, then if you don't wanna have a uproar, you keep it 8 hours of just accumulated leave, so people aren't feeling like they lose out on their sick leave and PTO.
That's exactly what happened to me. I had PTO and sick leave at Vicom. They decided to go to just PTO. There went a week.
Right, and so there it goes, and people get upset.
But we don't have to get rid of, like, we could make it equal, right?
You can make it equal, yeah, absolutely.
The other thing with them being separated is the way that it's handled on separation. Because
Termination, or.
not termination, separation.
Yeah, separation, yeah.
Yes, because you're paid out at your hour or your salary for vacation time, and you're not allowed to carry over as much. You're allowed to carry over more sick leave, but it gets paid out at a much, much lower rate. So I
What is
think
it,
that's why
like
it's,
$50 a day or something?
it's pennies.
It's $50 a day.
So I totally get going to just leave versus having both, but I just think that you gotta take into
There's some
consideration
effects to
how
that.
much, how much leave you're gonna get if you did that.
I think we should keep them both there because of distinctions, but I'm not passionate one way or the other. I think we can accrue it.
So this is also good because now that this is gonna be in just a policy manual, if you guys wanna have that discussion at a later time and change this, it's much easier to change now. This is something you guys can do. It doesn't need to be this now. This is just the adoption of the policy, and this is all the current existing sick leave and annual leave stuff that's already existing in Far West City. So we can always have this discussion again later and just change it, and then it's easy to do.
Then basically, this policy shows that after 6 months, they have 5 days of vacation. We could change how they get that.
Right, you could change how they get it.
Those 5 days. You know, do they get it over time up to that 6 months?
And that's the benefit of having this in a separate policy outside of ordinance.
But we don't have to do that right now.
Right, we don't have to. If you guys
Well, we
want to
can do it.
Yeah, whatever you guys want to do, just.
And so say your industry where you have just leave. I'm not, and I don't know, haven't quit a place recently, so. You have leave, you end your employment there. Do you get paid out for it?
You get paid out for any unused vacation time, PTO, but not, well, most organizations have gone to just PTO. So there's no differential. So you're paid out with what you have accrued, but not burned on your PTO
Like at your current rate,
at your current rate.
like so hour for hour, not.
But most,
But also you're not able to carry
you're
over
not able to
1,000
carry.
hours.
Yeah, Utah's a non-carry state. There's only like 2 states in the union that are carry states that, like Montana, I know is one of them, and I think North Dakota is the other, where you can legally, the employers have to allow it. Utah is not. And so,
So they can't carry over their leave?
it's up to the employer.
Oh, up to the employer.
But in Utah, it's not, the state doesn't mandate that the employer has to allow any hours carried. So that's another thing that, you know, enters into the equation because weeks upon weeks can't be carried over and continue to build, then there's not this big payout at the end that's, you know, there to affect the budget at the end. So I do like how the unused sick time that's accrued and carried does have that limit of $50 a day, and it specifies that it's at 8 hour days, not the, you know, 7-hour days or 7.5, however we want to look at it. So really that adds up to $6,500. That's not a huge hit on the budget, right?
Also currently one employee that has max hours.
Of 6.
The other 8 are not anywhere near that.
Of sick or vacation?
Of sick leave. There's one employee that gets paid out sick leave. So, because every July, what he has in excess, he gets paid out for. So like
Who is that?
Dave,
Okay.
The longest.
yeah, the longest employee,
He's been around long enough to accrue that.
yeah.
Yeah. And back to the, like, paragraph 2, annual leave carryover. Yeah, in section 1, when it talks about vacation carrying, you know, an employee is eligible for 10 days to be carried. And if they want more beyond the, you know, like in paragraph B, it talks about, it goes to hours. So again, just non-consistent. I'm not a huge fan of carryover, but I don't know, Andrea, what's the general consensus among the staff? Is it something
I
that's?
mean, most of your employees have been here over a decade
Mhm.
or 2 decades in some cases.
Mhm.
I think that we feel like we've earned carrying those days over if we've been here and accrued them.
That's an entitlement?
It's not entitlement, we've earned those. That's a benefit to us. That's part of
Well,
our employment agreement here.
you do earn them, that's true, but with the intent of using them, right?
So the policy has always been there, that we can carry over those days, so we've acted over 2 decades with the way the policy's been written.
But I think that's the concern, is that you've got what, in the event that we had, 5 employees or 4 employees cashing out
But
at
you can-
one time.
You can have carryover, but you can also have limits on carryover.
Which we have, which is stated.
Yeah.
And that is built into the budget, it's a liability.
Yeah, and so as an example, I may be able to carry over double what I earn. That's what I happen to get.
So I think from a recruitment perspective, if Far West were to stop carryover, whereas probably every other city in Weaver County, including Weaver County and probably even in Box Elder, does carry over. Anybody who's looking for that benefit of leave carryover wouldn't find it here. I don't know if it'd be.
I think we ought to provide some carryover, because like at my work, they went from like carrying over 100 down to 80, now it's down to 40. Well, that barely leaves you a vacation in January if you decide, or you get sick for a week in January with the flu. We only have a week.
Well,
So I don't love no carryover. I mean, that doesn't give our employees any
And
leeway.
loser use, especially in some cases, you can actually leave yourself very short, because everybody's like, I'm burning it.
So I like a carryover of some sort. I don't think it's,
I don't like it either. I like the other setup better.
So, I do like how it's, if you're only eligible for 10 days, then you can't carry. If you're eligible for 15 days or more, which most of our employees are, probably 80%.
We have one that is not, one that may hit that this next year.
I'd say still 80% or more. But anyway, that, you can only carry 5 days. How often is paragraph B initiated, where it says the mayor or department head?
We always say it in my 22 years of being here, only during COVID. And that was because all of our vacations got canceled for us.
Okay.
So what you're saying, how often does,
Has anyone asked to carry over more than they allowed? It was only during COVID. And then actually, current mayor put a time clock on when those days had to be used by. So nobody is going to be in excess of that to carry over next year. None of us will have it to ask to carry over at that point.
But again, because it says 40 hours instead of days, I'm assuming that means 5 days.
Yeah.
That's the max.
I mean, and go ahead and change it. That's just what has been in
Yeah.
the policy for
I just,
a billion years.
yeah, needs to be cleaned up.
I think we need at least a 40-hour carryover. I think that's
Well,
reasonable.
so you can
Yeah.
carry, one group is eligible to carry 5
Right.
over and one's eligible to carry 10.
Depending on how long you've been employed.
So paragraph B is like, so let's say I
Well-
had 10 days to carry over, but wanted to carry over 15. I
Right.
could
You'd need-
ask the mayor to do that. And like I said, the only time that that's ever occurred was during COVID, when we all had vacations planned and they got canceled and we weren't able to take them.
but then how does like your comp time play into that?
We don't have.
Flex time?
Flex time, or well, I thought there was language in here for.
Yeah, the whole flex comp type of thing, just to help explain that, how things are right now, so, not everybody is actually here for the full 40 every week. However, we also have guys that, they're out plowing all night long, all winter long. And that all just kind of comes out in the wash, and they're not getting overtime or any of that kind of stuff, so that's. And we have in our, office, people, they come here at night and cover the meetings, so there's, beyond the business hours, there are hours beyond that. And that's kind of how we've been operating for probably since, Jimmy days at least.
So, sorry, no, I'm talking about comp time. There is comp time mentioned in 11-3 payroll administration. Overtime and comp time must be approved, so that's where I was getting that assumption that there was comp time available.
Oh.
It's just overtime.
So I can't really speak to how the guys could use the comp time, because I know that some of them will.
But again, are we talking
So there-
flex time? Or flex and comp?
Let's say flex.
Okay, Okay, so let's talk about current practice. I believe the guys have been able to comp out like snowplow hours. The office doesn't ever do any of that stuff.
What do you mean by
Wait,
compound?
yeah.
So let's say that they came in and plowed for, all weekend long, 10 hours a day, plus they came in and worked their regular function. They've been allowed to like take that time off the next week. And not
So there
use
is
their
comp-
vacation.
So there is comp time.
It's not.
Listen to that.
The way it's written, that should be flex time that's getting.
Okay, so like I said, that's current practice.
Yeah, yeah.
With flex time, it'll go into, we keep track of how many hours you're here, and nothing will be compensated until you make up the 208 hours of the,
Flex
that 4
time.
hours per week.
So we're not using flex time currently.
No,
We're using-
so flex time is future policy.
Okay.
We're trying to
Comp time is
define
current
this
practice.
differently with that flex time.
Yeah, so they were trying to address it just a different way so that it's tracked that way and
That helps.
there isn't.
Because I didn't have time, I didn't take the time, I didn't have time. I didn't take the time to do a delta between what's on the books versus what we're looking at.
Right.
I looked at some, but I didn't look at everything. So,
Yeah, so there's current practice and then future policy.
because a lot of my questions around the flex time is just the tracking of it.
So
Because-
currently, because I haven't, with Lindsay being on maternity leave, it's kind of hard to go out and investigate this stuff, but we do have a timekeeping module in Excel.
Right.
I did send an email and didn't get a response, about getting training on that, and I just haven't gotten back around to it. So currently, I have an employee email me that this is the extra hours that they worked that week. I put that in a folder, so I've got the documentation there, and I have a spreadsheet where I update it anytime that it's reported to me. Once it goes to timekeeping, then it'll be kept.
Then it'll be automatic.
In Excel, yeah.
So I'm hoping Casella will come back and say, yes, we have a module.
Well, we have the module, we've paid for the module, we use training.
We have, and
How to
how
use it.
the employees can use,
Yes.
et cetera.
Yeah.
So
All of
that
that is
takes a lot of the
available,
work
we just
away.
need to know how to use it.
So for the purposes of this discussion, let's go back up to where we left off at.
That would be nice.
Yeah, we have comp time now. This policy will move us to a flex time.
Correct.
And then, okay, so then I'll touch on that, but when we get down to flex time, but I think that needs to be better defined and outlined, so but we can talk about that down below. Okay,
So, back to 9(2)B. Are we okay with the mayor or department head? Or does it need to be both? That approve this extra carryover of 5 days?
Is that the way it's currently written? Because as a department head, I can never okay that, it all, we should do the mayor.
And it says or.
Yeah,
But-
and like I said, I don't know if that's how it's written.
That is how it's
That is,
written.
yeah, yeah, no, I was unaware that the department heads.
You didn't know you had that kind of power?
Oh, no, I don't want.
You don't want that kind of.
Well, that's why I'm wondering if maybe we say both, just because I think the department head should know.
Mayor and department.
Yes,
Be approved. And, put and instead of or.
because the department head should know, otherwise you don't know that your employee has 5 more days. They feel obligated to tell you. And then it just,
For approval on part 2B.
yes,
Mayor and department head have to approve it?
yes. Because it sounds like it's a very rare exception, anyway. Okay.
yeah, and if you all of a sudden have an employee that has 5 more vacation days than they're supposed to, you'd have some questions.
All right, so 11.
Oh, sorry, down to E, 9(2)E. So in A, B, C, and D, we indicate it that it is the fiscal year is eligible for 20 days of vacation during that fiscal year needs to be added. Because there's no definition of like, well, what year? Is it January to December? Is it?
Well, it's the fiscal, so it's, if their 15 years of service fall into that July to July period, that's when they would get the 20 days.
Mhm.
So I think it's pretty
It's
clear.
During that fiscal year.
So if they're gonna come into their 15
Sure, they're
years, even if it's in June of that fiscal year, they still get that benefit. Is that
Yeah, I just,
the way you're good with it or no?
I guess it, during
July
the
1st.
fiscal year in which an employee completes 15 years of continuous service and each year thereafter. Okay, I think it it's covered.
And do we want to address the hours versus days?
Yes.
Yeah.
I
It
think we
just
made
doesn't
that,
make
Matt mentioned.
much
You wanna
sense.
do all hours, is that the
I think
consensus?
hours
Or
would be more
days.
clear.
Either.
One or the other.
Well, I think it should be hours. Personally, as a mom, like there's days I take, 3 hours to take a kid to a
Yeah.
dentist appointment or, take a half day to
How
go
do you
to.
account for half days?
Okay.
And so I think hours gives you that flexibility versus, and it's probably being tracked, is it being tracked as days and or hours? Okay, so it's already being tracked as hours.
So change all the days to hours.
Yeah, I think that just makes more sense.
And it is defined that as long again as, it says somewhere here, like in 933, it talks about, that's really the only place a day is defined as, well, no, days defined as 8 hours in other places, right?
Further down in there.
Okay.
Everything refers to days, but are you saying everything that's currently referring to days should be
Should be
hours?
hours.
That's what we're saying, just to stay consistent.
Just do
across the board.
math.
Yeah.
And I would like us to, explore this idea of doing just a leave, a PTO. I don't think it's anything we're gonna solve tonight, and I think it deserves further discussion, and I don't wanna put it off for another day that we can, change it down the road, because unless I think we've got the moment, so let's seize the day.
As far as just making it all week.
Yeah.
To understand the financial.
Yeah.
Side effects of that as a budget. Because if it's all leave and they leave, they get paid at full rate.
Or
But-
you have to change the entire policy on what payout is.
Yeah.
Right.
Because
But I'm
sick
just saying,
leave can
if you
accrue
just
up to
switched it
1,000
what
hours?
leave is,
Sick leave can accrue up to 1,000 hours? Like banked?
1,040.
What?
We
1,040.
1,040. But we only, if we were to separate, we only get paid out $50 for every 8 hours. So that's why sick leave is a completely different rate than
Right.
hour for hour of vacation.
So if we would need to count that in our carryover balance, like,
yeah.
It's not a huge amount.
Cost. No, it's
65 hours
not.
the max cap per
right?
individual, so.
I guess, and
And that's carried as a liability right now, correct?
Huh?
That's carried as a liability?
Yes, it is, it's budgeted as a liability. I guess my other question is like, so in the fiscal year when Dave has more hours than what is allowed to carry over, at what rate do you pay him out?
It should be the $50 a week.
at what it was accrued at.
If you turned it all into leave.
Oh,
And how do you determine that it's sick leave?
Oh, yeah.
Carry
That's,
over?
that's what I meant about the financial and fiscal.
But I think there
I just
is,
think it's muddy after using it as this practice for as long as it counts.
but I think there's professionals out there that can advise us on this and say, yeah, it's probably a good idea to leave this policy as is. It makes sense for the city, or no, it probably, makes sense to combine these. And I think at the end of our conversation, when we first started talking about this, I thought, I was under the impression that we were kind of, we'll get a start on it, have an expert look at it and kind of give us some feedback. Well, I don't think, Liam, love you, but I don't think Liam's an HR expert. He's an attorney.
But I think that with what he's done, I don't know that I want to pay a lot of money for an HR expert to look at this if we can do it right and legal.
But if an HR expert sees some areas, vulnerabilities, doesn't the cost justify it?
It depends on the cost to me, because I think that's why we went this way. That's why we decided to go this way, because of the cost.
If you're talking legal vulnerabilities and lawsuit issues, that's taken care of. If you're wanting like,
I
hey,
mean, like
some
best
cities do this and some
practices.
cities do that, then I mean, you don't take away sick leave and vacation leave.
And we go-
Period, there it is.
Then we go
Because
from
nobody else is doing that.
49 pages to 119 or whatever.
Well, and it's not just with this policy. I think it's document wide. I think having somebody that it's their expertise, not just looking at sick time and vacation time, looking at it as a whole and saying this, here's best practices and here's kind of what industry standards are. And hey, this is a section that you're probably missing that you want to have. And
I think we've done that, actually.
Yeah, well, just for the record, as someone that's now been to several HR trainings, if I have a question on it, I would ask Liam his advice on how to handle an HR situation. Because I want to know if I'm handling it legally. He's the one that's gonna have to, defend the policy in the end. Like,
yeah,
having been to the conferences and seen the information provided, I don't know that someone that just took a SHRM CP or SCP test is any more qualified than an attorney.
And we've also taken those, from, let's call it plagiarism, but we've taken it from those cities and counties that are working and have good policies. Thank you, sorry.
And also, this isn't just my policy. I mean, the personnel committee sat down on this and we talked about this for hours and hours and hours and we went through the whole thing. And I mean, I got the legal aspect of it down, but those who work in the city and have worked in the city for years and years and years, they're some of the experts on
oh, and I
what
know.
works for the city and what doesn't, what hasn't in the past. And so I relied on them for a lot of it as well. I think it's a well-rounded group, I would say.
And I don't want to discount any of the work that you put into this or the city and the personnel committee, because it is an improvement upon where we were at. I just go back to I want to know if there's holes in it. I want to know if we're leaving ourselves open to, or if there's other programs that could be expanded in the benefit of our employees to make it a better place to work. That we could beef up, and I would love that
Well,
perspective.
we made one of the things, I don't know if anybody had questions on it, was paternity leave. We gave that to everybody.
Yes,
And
love
didn't
that.
get in
Thank
here.
you.
Right, it's a big thing. I mean, that's something the city didn't have before, and now that they have it in policy. And again, it goes back to recruitment efforts, because everybody else is doing that, it's better for Far West City to have it just for employee recruitment in the future as well.
But I think to Katie's point, I know Cody had recommended a professional that, I don't know that it would cost us a lot of money to have them just review it and see if they had any additional suggestions or recommendations. Again, I don't think we know until we've asked and just find out. Someone that does this day in and day out. Because, yeah, I mean, I know the employees are great. I know they know the city, but they're just like all of us. We only have our own little purview to base our knowledge upon. And so, yeah, I think someone that has a broader perspective could bring more benefit to us. It's worth at least asking and looking.
I'm a member of the public sector HR group for Utah. Post on the discussion board and see if they have a recommendation.
Like I said, I think it's just be good to ask and see what the cost would be and the time would be to have a review.
I wonder if, how the state has given us, not given us, but they came up with this new thing about the,
Weed city manager.
yes, but then there's another word for it that they use, but basically, there's somebody that the state can provide for us, I think, free of charge, because the legislature paid for it. They can advise us on these types of things.
Yeah, that would be great.
So that would be where, I think that's where we can look first. Let's look for not having to pay for it, but getting benefit.
Mm-hmm.
That may be worthwhile. And probably on some other things, like some of other ordinances, I wanted to reach out to them and start, they passed that for a reason. We don't have a city manager, you know what I mean, an official.
Yeah.
So why not use that resource?
Well, I wanna go on record saying that I think that we need to explore that option. I don't wanna shut the door on it completely, and whether it's through getting recommendations from the roving city manager or going,
They may have resources for this.
yeah, or have pointing us in the right direction, or
what
saying,
I
this is a pipe dream, what you've got is great. Just as outside set of eyes.
So, all right, so we're agreed on that point. Sorry, I'm gonna skip ahead. So
Okay,
I don't know if
I
you-
just had a
don't have
question
anything till 11.
on paid holidays, 9-4. And this is for my own clarification, so I am understanding. Independence Day is a paid holiday.
Well, I'll just not remember that, I'm okay with that.
Well, I wanna know what that looks like on paper. Are you getting paid overtime, which is time and a half? Are you getting flex time? Like, what's the?
Currently, we are getting, holiday, so it's double time on that holiday, no extra time for any or extra hours that goes into that time.
So double
It's not
time.
gonna do this year, but because we don't have really policy increase.
Yeah, so I think that we need to include some language in there that, and I think South Weaver had some good language around.
Well, that all comes back to, that should be, no, I guess, anyway, overtime doesn't start till the 41st hour worked, correct? So flex time doesn't account for that. So if you work 36 hours in a week,
They still have to hit the 4 more.
they still have to hit the 41st hour.
That's how it was handled.
Okay,
There were a few people that took vacation and they.
didn't qualify
They
for
couldn't
it.
qualify for
Right.
that, because they weren't working.
So that's what we just need to tighten up and make sure that it's well documented that 41st,
You don't get paid overtime at hour 37.
Yeah.
It's 41.
Correct.
Yeah. And it isn't real clear in here, but I don't know if it's gonna be cleared up with references or links to the other system you're talking about.
So yes, it would be my preference to spell out, let me kind of, I can send you the language that I thought South Weaver had a good hold on that language for holidays that are worked.
For holidays, you get paid 8 hours for those days.
At double time, if you work.
Well, I'm saying for holidays, you get paid 8 hours for
Right.
those days.
But then Fourth of
If
July
there's
is the-
work, that's something else.
Right. Holiday pays 8 hours.
Yeah.
It's 8
On a
hours.
normal.
And then if you
unworked
work
holiday.
So
it,
the conversation is if you work.
then you're
on
getting
that
double
holiday-
pay. So in truth, it's triple pay.
No,
No.
Just double pay
so you get paid the holiday and then you get paid
For your
for
hours.
working.
Over.
And if the hours add up to whatever that is, then it can squeeze into time and a half.
time and a half, which is probably.
I know, I used to volunteer for a lot of Christmas shutdowns where I would get paid double time and a half
Yep.
all the time. I was banking back in the day.
Yeah, that's what Williams did. Came in on their 2 weeks off. So that-
Mhm. Had a lot of volunteers for the holiday
Yep.
stuff, absolutely.
Okay, so do you want to send that to them later?
Yeah, I
And we can move on?
can do that.
I apologize, all my experiences are with Viacom, so.
So we're good to move to 11?
Yep.
Okay.
But at least we're not doing something like when I had one job where when you got a week of vacation, you had to use a week of vacation. You didn't get to use a day or an hour.
Oh.
That's.
You're on.
So in 11.1, work hours, it goes through and defines pretty well, the 8 hours normal.
Oh, so you're done with 9?
I passed through all that.
Are you done with 9?
Sorry, no. I'm sorry, you guys. Leave of absent, the FMLA language, it's the third paragraph in. It just says eligible employees may request up to a maximum 12 weeks of family leave within a 12-month period. What 12 months are we talking about? 12 months since they last took FMLA, 12 months in the fiscal year, 12 months.
FMLA defines that pretty well.
Yeah, it's within 12 months.
Yeah.
12 months period. You have 12, so anytime, when you start FMLA, in 12 months from the time you started that FMLA.
Yeah,
It's not a fiscal year thing.
It's an FMLA thing.
Right.
And then parental leave, I think we need to add in some language that they need to exhaust their parental leave before going into FMLA. Just so it's not like, oh, I'll do FMLA, bank this time and, you know, and then.
And use it at the end.
Yeah, it's
That's
like.
a good point.
I think that's pretty common,
That's
isn't it?
fair.
Yeah. And then I don't know, I want to make sure too that like this, because I know sometimes these things are exempt if you don't have 50 employees. And so it's like, you're not eligible for FMLA because this city isn't more than 50 employees.
Government is
Exempt?
subject to it regardless.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
I was under the impression that we weren't subject to it, and then I found out later.
okay.
Because the government is more than 50 people.
No, because we are held to a hair camera,
I just,
And I would just really like to advocate for 10 work days, regardless if you're a mom or a dad. You carry the burden equally. The way it's written now makes me feel like it's like if you're not physically having the child, you get 5 days. But if you are the one, it's like, it's 10 days.
Especially with adoptions, that should be, I understand physical recovery, but an adopted child should get just as much time off as a born child. Does that make sense? I guess I think that because we were
Yeah.
adopting so at one point, but,
Oh, I didn't know.
well, we didn't. It fell through, but
Aw.
we were.
So, I mean, that's my preference is just you get mom or dad, you get 10 days.
basically equality and all that. What chapter or paragraph is that?
It's the second and third paragraph. And I think that I think we can kind of even clean it up additionally, like of paid maternity leave due to temporary disability and or the necessity of recovering from childbirth. You had a kid, like it's life-changing as it is. So like, I don't think we need of paid due to disability or the necessity of recovering. Or you adopted a child, it's life-altering.
Well, I think we need language if you're gonna equalize it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because right now, it's not equal, and so hence the one is more than the other.
And I'm happy to look into did you guys look into like what other city, I don't think a lot of other cities are doing
A
this.
lot of other cities don't, but the counties do, and the state does as well, and the state gives more time to the birthing mother than to father. It is very similar to the counties, yeah. State and Salt Lake County does the same thing, the birthing mother gets a lot more than the father. So that doesn't mean it has to be that way at all, that's just how it is done.
As we borrow and follow best practices of others, but we could choose our own destiny. So this is, so the FMLA, that's actually not compensated, is it?
No.
It's just allowed time away without losing your job.
So I'm indifferent to it, Katie, so that's why I'm not saying much. I was seeing if anyone else would speak up on it. I don't know that I have an opinion on equalizing it. What's that?
I can't hear what you're saying.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
I think it makes sense. I mean, like say, to me, the difference is like if I adopt a child, I feel like I should get the same 10 days as if I had the child.
Right.
And I know we're talking about like moms versus dads too, for medical recovery. I mean, 2 weeks isn't enough time off anyway, but
something.
Right. 10 years isn't enough time off, let's be honest.
My youngest was born, I was Salt Lake County, and it's 6 weeks as the dad.
Yeah.
It was a lot of time. And they can double that.
I think I think it sends a message that sent to our employees that, you know, yeah, I think that you are is an equal partner in, you know, this, and we, you know, I think that it should be regardless of whether or not you have the baby.
Especially if care after having a baby, who provides that?
Yeah, you have it, I mean,
The
you have a
partner.
C-section, you're not
Mhm.
supposed to pick up or lift anything for what, I can't remember what my
Weeks?
clearance was
6
on that.
weeks? I don't
So I
know.
couldn't even pick up my child because of, and in my case, I had 2 of them at one time, and so I needed a lot of help.
You should get double.
Right?
But
But,
I would support that, but I'm not like,
would you, I mean,
dying for
Dave,
it.
do you see this, I always go to different numbers stuff, but do you see that if we did 10 and 10, would that move the needle budgetarily much?
I don't think so. Because it's only on childbirth and that's just not a daily occurrence.
I get the equalization thing, I think that's a good thing, but when people look at this, they're not gonna look at it as, oh, you each get 10 work days, they're gonna go, man, everybody else is giving the moms a lot more than the dads, and you guys just have them the same amount.
Yeah, there could be one, the
Yeah.
moms could be 20.
Exactly, and they don't know that the original plan was to give dads 5 days. So it's just gonna have that effect, if anybody really looks into it.
Yeah, that could be the optic on it. So that.
I'm not like super strong feel about it, more about the adoption than necessarily mom versus dad, but I don't know. I'm not like, I can't not move on if we don't change that, but I see.
Well, as a compromise, this is something that's new, period. So we could start here and always look at it next year.
I mean, it's policy.
Yeah, that's true. We could change it.
Okay.
I like that we're giving paid time off at all. You know, my husband
Mhm.
didn't get any with our kids.
Okay.
I don't know.
Back in the day, it was like, kick your butt back to
Yeah.
work.
It was take PTO or don't be there at all. So, yeah.
All right, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Try it out, see where it lands
Yeah,
us.
see
I
how it.
worked with a guy that got 3 months off. I'm like, for what? You didn't do anything.
They
I'm just.
do a lot after the fact. They should be.
He did.
So then the only change that's happening to the parental leave is that we're just specifying that it has to be used prior to the use of the FMLA. Right. Yes, that was a consensus.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where what if we did, because I think Janelle had a good point, just remove eligible employees, well, shall receive up to 10 days.
It's hard without getting into like gender, who gets 10 days versus who gets 5.
Right, well,
So-
and, but I feel like you do, I'm like, an adoption of a baby, you may not have had that child, but you're doing the same thing.
Right. But I think, yeah, the double for the birthing mother is for medical concerns, right? So I guess you can't claim that, but I don't know.
All right.
I think we can revisit it if
Okay.
if it eats at us and we
Well,
can't.
an interesting twist on this, throw it in there, where they are of the same gender.
Right. Right, we can't go by gender. That's not really
No.
the determining factor.
It's 10 workdays.
Easy.
Okay, 11.
Okay, so it's pretty well defined. The question I had, Andrea, is office hours of the city building shall be Monday, 8 to 4. How's the lunch hour accounted for? Or is there one? Talks about breaks.
Half-hour break for lunch for me is not, so I would say most of the time, either Lindsay or I take lunch. So.
And, okay,
We should have it in our policy.
we should have something in the
So if
policy.
someone was hired on.
Yeah.
We know. I mean, we don't have a lunch policy at work and I still don't know if I get a paid lunch or not, so I just kind of split it. I don't think I get a paid lunch, so we just kind of work extra, but there's nothing that really says.
And I know we have coverage, we have double and sometimes triple coverage, so it's not like you couldn't take time, but yeah, I mean, breaks.
Allow for a lunch if somebody wants to.
Yeah, but then we have to discuss, is it paid, unpaid, how long is it? I mean, the breaks are mandatory. Well, actually, they're not in an office environment. They're not mandatory. That's something we're giving. So I guess we could just argue that those two 15-minute breaks could be.
Two 15-minute breaks or a 30-minute lunch, because I feel like.
You could say you take your 2-minute, 15-minute consecutive.
We don't even really have to say that, because if you're working 8 hours.
I can see if you define the lunch, some people taking advantage of, well, I still get 15-minute breaks and I take two of them together and tack on to the end of my lunch.
Oh,
and
yeah, have an
just leave
hour
it
and.
at 3 o'clock and.
Oh, yeah.
There's maybe a situation.
Cause I worked through my lunch.
Right.
And it just does say, generally speaking, 1 in the morning and 1 in the afternoon. So I guess it does accommodate for it, and the way we're written, we're fine, as long as the way we operationalize it is say that, yeah, you can take two 15-minute breaks, or you can group them together and take a half-hour lunch, and it's paid. Otherwise, no. Does that work? Does that work for everyone else? Okay.
I know when I come in, they're often, dropping food on their keyboards.
We just shove it in and keep on working.
No, I get it. I just didn't, it wasn't,
2 15-minute breaks or half-hour lunch, like, that makes sense.
Or combined for a half-hour.
because Liam, my understanding of the break requirement by state law is that if they're at a position where they cannot leave, then they're entitled to those. Otherwise, it's really more up to the employer, right? Okay.
So do we want to specify that it can, are we leaving it or specifying?
I'd say we leave it. We leave it, and then the general consensus is that if the office wants to work it that way, they can work it that way. If they want to leave it the way it is, they leave it the way it is.
So I had a question on the normal workday for full-time employees shall be 8 hours and the normal work week 40 hours. So when you're adding, 8 hours Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and 4 hours Friday, that's 36 hours. So where's the other?
That's the flex.
So is flex, you automatically get flex? Or is it you have to, once you hit 36 hours, 40 hours?
So this is when, hopefully I'll state this correctly. This is when our guys are out snow plowing. That 4 hours that they left early on Friday are eating up.
Right, but what is?
So they're topping out at 4 hours, even if a week, even if they were 4 hours every day doing snow removal?
Last time it goes into a bucket through the casselle or whatever. And then they use that as they're plowing snow, or if they're here at these
Or an
meetings.
emergency type thing, or a sewer deal.
Does it?
So then once they hit the 208, that's when you start addressing overtime.
That 208 is those 4 hours added together.
So you have to work. I don't understand the 4 hours of flex time. Like, how does
Because
that?
we only work 36, but we're getting paid for 40. So then we have to throughout the year make up that 208 by like me sitting here an extra 3 or 4 hours after my work day. Then that's my 40, I hit my 40 for the week.
So are we just saying every week you get 4 hours of flex time, whether you're here working extra hours or not?
No.
They start eating that. So if Andrea is gonna work 40 hours this week, she has no flex time in the bucket. And next week, she might have 4 hours that goes in the bucket. Next week, she might do 48 hours, and that takes that 4 plus 4 more out of the bucket. And that's what we're doing so that they haven't been charging us overtime on the snowplows. That's how we compensate the snowplows and the extra work there.
So what happens if there's leftover time, like they have 50 hours of flex time that they haven't worked?
That's the part that that's the benefit to the employee.
Right.
But that makes it they're on call, if the
Right.
sewer's blown.
No, I get all that. I understand where the extra 4 hours is used. It's just,
No, but also the fact that they're available for that kind of stuff, they're kind of being, I would say compensated for
Right.
their availability.
Kind of being on call, but not on call.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But is there a better approach to that? Maybe an on-call? I saw some of that, like an on-call classification versus just flex time, whether I can see that, this is, this would probably look different between
Yeah.
operations.
The situations that they come in for are different. Sometimes it's one guy, and sometimes it's just who's available. Other times it needs to be a certain people. Sometimes it's all of them.
I'm actually okay with it as long as we track it. It's gotta be tracked.
Mosquito abatement district does, because they work hard
Summer.
5 months,
So
and then they.
operationally, this is no different than we've been operating.
But we don't have any tracking.
It's the same way we haven't tracked the extra hours. So
I'll
now-
guarantee you they spend a lot more than 208 hours
Right.
plowing snow this year.
Right, so now if they hit that 208, they're actually gonna get compensated for that time, where in the past,
They were.
we haven't.
It was just, you
Equal.
just got 4 hours
But-
and nothing on top of that?
No, if they ate up, so snow plowing, if they ate up that 208 hours and then they actually did 300 hours, they didn't get any overtime.
Now they will.
They were just doing out of the goodness of their heart, because we have good employees.
It's a risk of.
We have been benefiting from this.
I don't know that we have, but this is my concern. And this is why it has to be documented and tracked. Is because the employees could, to protect the city, we need to do this. Because the employees could band together and say, I didn't get paid for all this overtime, bring a case against the city that the state's backing, and then the city has to defend themselves. On the flip side, we could be taking advantage of the employees, but we just don't know. We don't track this. It just can't be, we can't continue this way.
So let's say, hey, runners have tracked those hours for the last 4 years, you can go back 4 years and say, I should be compensated for this.
Exactly.
And we have to pay.
And we'd have to at least have some form to dispute it.
Right.
He'd have to have some proof that he did it.
Yes, yes.
That's why we
But you
need-
can bring a case that
So-
I should be compensated for this time.
So I don't disagree with the flex hours. I just, the fact that we don't have any way to record it or haven't recorded it in the past. So,
I started with the 208 July 1, just because I knew that this was coming down the pipe, so that we were on top of it since July 1. That started this later.
but again, anything we can do to automate that process, Andrea, is what we need to
Oh,
do.
yeah, for sure. And once I have another body in the office, it'll be way easier.
So I think with Cassell, they should have a phone app that they can, when they're in the truck, they can clock in, clock out, so it's all official.
Yeah, it
Like,
does,
protects them, protects the city.
definitely needs to be tracked closely for our benefit and for the employees' benefit.
Yes,
Because they
absolutely.
should definitely be getting paid for, any time over, and that's what fair is. And so, yeah, sorry if I just want to make sure I understand this. The 4 hours of flex time are automatically given with each pay period. And then,
If they've only worked 36, whatever they work, so they might work 38, so they only get 2 hours of flex time.
okay,
Whatever that is, up to.
Whatever short of 40 they put in a bank that then gets pulled back out if they're working 42 the next.
Okay, and then you deduct
Yeah.
from that.
Yes.
So
And
we're
the
getting
accumulates
paid
it.
the same
Right, you're
pay
getting paid
every
no matter
paycheck
what.
until that 208 is worked on top of regular
Mm,
hours.
okay,
And then you get
be
overtime.
compensated for that.
gotcha.
And again, just to clarify, like an assumption, like Andrea's here tonight, this, and the way I would see it operationalized is that that's part of her flex hours. Doesn't mean that she took, if she thinks this is gonna be a 4-hour deal like it's turning into, doesn't mean that you worked half your, or worked 4 hours less today or sometime this pay period. Just means that you're dipping into the flex hours.
Right.
Yeah.
So I adjusted, came in at 9:30, stayed till 5:30, so anything past 5:30
Goes into flex.
goes into my flex.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, just needs to be tracked and documented so that it protects both parties.
I think we all agree that documentation is good.
Okay. 11.3, third bullet, down in the bulleted items, overtime and comp time must be approved before it's performed. By who? The employee gets to approve it?
And we're removing comp time there. So it should be just overtime must be approved before it's performed.
Well, so that's where,
It
if you.
It could go into comp.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to leave it in there because you could
So
have.
if you've used all your flex, if you've, and then you're still working, you need to get approved for that.
And that would be, I think, the department head and mayor is what I would think.
And that would either be overtime classification, or if they want to approve comp time, which is basically just, I work an hour, I get an hour off the next day or the next week.
And I think that like, that language of like, it's, once you hit 208 hours, then there is the option for comp time, which is this, and overtime, which is this. I didn't see that in here really spelled out specifically,
It's not.
but I could be so I think we need to address that, like
Well, there's a come.
11.
Oh, it is.
This is where all the tech nut stuff is.
Yep, yep.
So
So the tech nut stuff did get in here. So this addresses evaluations too. Sorry, that was
Good,
off topic,
okay.
but it's there.
Did you say 11.7?
Yes.
And so in addition to normal working hours, I think that needs, it should not say in addition to,
Yeah, because normal.
Upon-
working hours is the 36. Yeah, so I think that it should be the normal working hours.
or upon maxing out, you know, or upon hitting that flex time or,
I get what she's saying.
thank you.
Sorry. So you, which part of comp time in 1170?
Oh, you're talking about here, work extra time in addition to normal working hours?
Yeah.
But it's after flex time.
But it's after you hit that 208 hours.
Oh, so it's not per week?
Yeah.
It's
Right.
per, after 208.
And then,
It's an annual number, yeah.
yeah, so extra time in addition, or extra time above and over the 208 hours. And then,
So,
go ahead.
go, oh, sorry. So back to that bullet, I think we need to make sure we call out who approves it,
Yes.
unless it's called out somewhere later.
We're doing mayor and department head?
Yeah.
Has to be consistent. You're like consistent.
And then I had a, I think you answered this question for me, but our timekeeping procedure is, we're using that software, Cassell.
Yeah, not currently.
We're going to be.
But we're going to get that instituted as soon as we can.
We own the module, we're gonna get educated, we're gonna get.
Wonderful.
plugged in. So
Okay.
in the meantime, it's manual, but it's being performed.
You mentioned that, what app was it that had, that this is part out of? TechNet. The TechNet question we had earlier, though, was for annual reviews, and that is not in this area right here. It is?
And it's actually from job performance, it's right there, it was on.
Great, let's see.
It looks like it was copied and pasted from somewhere.
Yeah, so I know. 'cause-
We're at-
Oh, there it is, it even says TechNet.
Yeah, because we adjusted that, we actually
Technology.
adjusted the.
Yeah, it talks about that, but.
I don't think it really hits on the like procedure.
First page, right there, job descriptions, unsatisfactory job performance.
Yeah, it talks about that, but it doesn't talk about the whole annual review process.
Okay, I know that part was in there.
We'll make sure.
Because we adjusted, we actually changed it from, because it said that the reviews had to be done in October. But then the adjustments were done in July, so that was really, it was silly to do performance
adjusted it.
evaluations in October.
So I think TechNet does, I think you have a lot of good to cover what we're talking about here, but again,
Yeah.
back to the annual review process.
Yeah, so.
Let's still add that.
Because it addressed, because originally it was approved as reviews were done in October. And we moved it to before the.
It made sense in October for the end of the year, but we're not, that's not
Right, so
our
I
end of the
evaluated
year.
someone in October.
Right.
They don't perform well till next July, but they still get a raise based on their last October review.
Just don't think it made it in.
Yeah, so. Yeah, if you want to
We'll
look at
make
the
sure
current
that-
policy and see what you think about what's in there now, I know it's addressed, because like I said, we changed it.
So the job performance evaluations right now, with this TechNet thing, says they're gonna be completed during the last quarter of the fiscal year, April to June, and reviewed with the employee and used for purposes of communication, instruction, and guidance. And then it's gonna be scored as follows, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, so it
Is
had
that
the
current?
scale and everything on there.
Okay, and it's annual? It
Yes.
states that it's annual,
The
okay?
last quarter of the fiscal year.
Yep.
every year. Yep.
Just making sure there wasn't some verbiage in there about twice a year. So. You guys don't do twice a year now, do you? Or ever have?
We didn't even do evaluations till like 3 years ago, 2 years ago.
Just want to start TechNet.
Yeah.
And for what it's worth, I started a one-on-one thing, I dragged him in from time to time.
I don't know if that's good practice, Mayor.
I do one every month where I work with my.
No, I'm just saying that in today's climate, you always want to have a witness.
Oh.
Anyway, okay.
Yeah, so we.
Remotely. Of course, my manager's in Maryland, so I guess that's what.
So on,
I guess I saw the TechNet section, you skip right over it, so we get it all.
so on 11.7. There's the, however, when employees are directed by the department or division supervisor or his or her duly appointed representative to work time, we'll need to change that to mayor. Yeah, mayor and department supervisor.
Oh, yeah, on the investigated.
No, it's next sentence. When employees are directed by the department supervisor, his representative to work extra time. Up above, we said overtime and comp time has to be approved by the mayor and the department supervisor.
With some consistency in there.
And then in the first sentence, I actually just thought, well, understaffing will be investigated by the mayor. I think that, you know, do you want some help in that, Mayor?
Sure.
Again, back, I think kick it to the personnel committee, right? The very first sentence of 11.7. At the end, we're investigated by the mayor and personnel committee.
And then if we could include some sort of definition of what is overtime? Is it time and a half? Double time?
It's not already defined somewhere.
Yeah.
I haven't seen double time since they went away.
It's time and a half by state law.
Right.
I used to get double time for Sundays.
So, and then there was one.
Choice, minimum is.
I'm saying they took that away.
There was some language in another one I was looking at, that said holiday, sick, vacation, comp, or time off shall not be considered hours worked for the purposes of calculating overtime. And I don't think that's in our language.
Like you said, it was.
No, but I feel like it should be. And then, do we have any directives as to, it's just like you can choose if you want comp time, you can choose if you want overtime?
You would request the mayor, the department head, and then you decide.
Some people like time, some people like pay.
So I think in other.
If you're getting time off, it's actually you're getting less.
And sometimes maybe comp time isn't something they can get because it's too busy or, something.
So is it defined anywhere, like how long you have to use the opportunity or?
Oh, yeah.
There was
comp time?
I thought it said something about it had to be used.
Well, flex time.
Well, flex
time
is
is, yeah, I don't know that we've said any time for comp time.
We need to. Certainly can't carry.
The overtime question is answered down 11.7 actually.
Okay. Yeah, I think.
This is a clue, we've been here too long.
My clue is, and I'm sorry, Mayor.
The other clue.
Yeah, my clue's been way too long.
Well, thank you, Boyd, for.
It's good. It's a good discussion. It's just too lengthy.
So we need to include some language in there about how comp time can it be banked or rolled over, or what the payout is
Yeah,
at the end of severing employment.
I would say, just off the cuff, I'd say it can't be carried over to a different fiscal year. And it should be used within 90 days of earning. See you, Boyd.
See you guys.
See you, Boyd. Thank you.
Within
I think 90 days is plenty.
ample, yeah. It really should be more like 30 or 60, but.
Yeah, I think 90 days is generous.
Andrea, do you feel like if comp time, if you were to get it, so say you got it, I just learned this when I worked for the fair, the state fair. I was working, crazy hours, and they were like, you have to expend it in the same pay period that you earned it.
That's
And I'm like, I am not gonna expend 40 hours of comp time by the end of the pay period. So is that sufficient? Is 90 days sufficient?
I can't really speak for it because the office people are not usually in that situation. It's the guys who are, So I can't speak for what their opinion is. I think it's enough time, but I don't know.
I'm counting those periods.
Okay.
Yeah, 90 like I said, 90 days is generous, because most people, if they're going for comp time, they want to take it soon.
So maybe we do say 30 then.
Yeah, and that should be, that would be.
I don't like the
plenty of
same-
Snowplow season out of,
No.
Yeah, I don't like the same pay period,
No, it was like, that was impossible.
but, I'd be fine with 30. Not,
I mean, let's just, sorry. But if you have a winter like this winter, right?
And you're constantly.
You're gonna need more than 30 days.
Well, that's what I mean, like that.
But it's a
you want enough time
choice.
to get out
Yeah.
of-
Well.
they still get to choose.
That's true.
They can choose
I
overtime.
guess, considering snow classes, we start July 1.
Right.
They're probably not gonna hit 208 at the very first of snow classes.
Right. And it's a choice. So if they literally can't take comp time, they take the pay.
Sure.
So I think 30 days.
I'm good with.
Okay.
Also, one of those things, we'll see how it works this
Yeah.
year, and if it's
Yeah.
like impossible, I think we would need to make that clear to Andrea, to them, if this becomes extra work or it's not possible, let's adjust this.
And I think generally, it's been, if they have some time off planned and they work that extra, they like to take comp just so they're not using their sick vacation at that
Yeah,
point. But-
Usually
So
comp time
usually
is
they
used
take it when they
quickly.
have something close on the horizon anyway. So,
And then do we have any language about like what happens to that if they end their employment?
It's gone.
Yeah, it
It's-
doesn't carry, doesn't get
'Cause that's
paid
time
out.
off.
Do we need to say that it won't be paid out at like?
Just say it unless, what we need to make sure we don't say that it's gonna be paid out.
Right.
And if we aren't saying that, then.
I thought it said something like that.
In flex time.
Well, in comp it doesn't? Okay. Well, actually, it says it's governed by the applicable federal and state law, so we'd have to revert to that, and I don't think it gets paid out.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, the whole point of comp time is you work some extra time, you get some time off.
Yeah.
You don't suddenly, when you quit, get paid for it.
That's my way my company does it.
Really?
Shout comp time. We just got acquired by another firm, so that might change.
All right, where are we at, Katie?
I am done with 11.
I'm down to 16, so.
Oh, hey,
I like you.
guess what? We got through all of my questions, so it's you. This is Dave's
So
show.
you're good with 16?
Good with,
Dumb question. So 12 and 13 and 14 and all
Those are all.
they were like
One of them we're
standard
taking out.
boilerplate.
Oh, gotcha.
Well, the sexual harassment and stuff, that's what, federal law.
Yeah.
I guess I do have a, sorry, you guys. Sorry. What is our process for, so say somebody has a complaint and it's like, God forbid, against Andrea, but Andrea's on the personnel committee, like, what's the like neutral third party for hearing third party complaints?
So like my supervisor, the person that does my evaluation is the mayor. So if someone had a complaint against me, they will go.
Yeah. You go up the chain.
When someone has a complaint against the mayor, they just.
If they complain about me, there's.
No.
They have no recourse.
No, he gets voted out the next time around. Or there are other methods, actually.
The neutral third party that's always there is the courts. I mean, that's a last resort, but you can always grieve up to the state. Oh, yeah, I mean, it's expensive, but nobody wants to do it.
Sucks to be you. Go to small claims.
Yeah.
So you're going 16 then?
Sure.
Okay, so in 16, I don't really have any concerns, the take, other than 16.9.
16 also, and you guys probably know this, isn't required for the
Right.
city, right? This is just regulated by OSHA. OSHA encourages this to exist. So we included it, the personnel committee included it because at some point in time it will likely be required.
So take-home vehicle, again, it doesn't go far enough to define it. 15-mile radius, I guess, does define it, but again, do we really want to leave it to the employee supervisor?
You
Or
wanna
should this be a?
consistent with the
Yeah,
supervisor, mayor?
should be a bigger decision, I think.
And when does like, you take your vehicle home, does your time clock start?
You get to work.
When you get like
To the
to
office?
the office?
Or
when
to
you
the
get-
city?
Well, them to the shop in the morning, they all meet at 7 a.m.
Meet at the shop, or, yeah.
Well, then do we pay all the gas for that?
Yeah.
For them to drive
We have
home
the-
up to Layton?
Yeah,
Or
well, what-
radius? is
what
different.
happens if we get somebody that works in North Salt Lake? Like, I mean, I guess it says it
It's
within
15
15 mile radius, but like 15 miles of, city hall.
It
Isn't there
is.
actually a deduction?
Yes, they actually get, fringe benefit, taken out of their paychecks.
Do they track it then? Do they daily?
Oh, no, not the gas, just good for like the vehicle use.
The mileage, yeah.
Yeah, so they get taxed for that as fringe benefit.
That's what I'm saying though, is you do track that daily or weekly, monthly, whatever, you turn in an annual amount for them.
They, per paycheck, they get deducted as a fringe benefit tax.
So they're kind of like paying through payroll the use of the vehicle.
Well, the city doesn't know. What it is it's, they get taxed on that money that they benefit from, but the city doesn't benefit. The employee benefits and the federal government benefits and the state government benefits, but we do not as a city. We pay the bill. The city the employee has to take a hit for
Our
their.
benefit is that they can get to a sewer condition like that. But, you know, that's why they're available. They need to be available. Might benefit for them to be available if they had to go all the way to the shop, their personal vehicle, get in the truck, go take care of the sewer.
The
not that big
15
of a
miles
city.
isn't that far, like.
We're not a very big city either.
Like if you have a vehicle, that means that you're within 15 miles. I mean, so you can go, I mean, it's not that big of a difference between going to the shop and then getting a vehicle and taking it back. And I don't know how many circumstances we've had that have been, you know, had that necessity.
It is a radius measurement. So how far does that take us? Did anyone look at that?
I looked at 15 miles from here, like 15 miles away is like Layton, but I don't know what like 7 miles is, 7.5. I mean.
Well, the radius is just the half of the circumference. So that's what I'm saying.
I don't know
It's
how far it's
literally point to point.
Yeah.
So that does take you into Layton, doesn't it?
Let's see.
Well,
And doesn't
Oh.
get you to Brigham.
No.
Get you to maybe South Perry. Yeah, definitely get you over to Ogden Valley. And definitely takes you all the way out west. Okay.
Let's see, circle.
No, I'm just glad that it's defined finally. I mean,
I like the radius better than, 15 miles is to Layton, so every day an employee could be driving that far on gas and wear. I mean, we have to take into account wear and tear on vehicles,
yeah.
you know, every day, like.
Yeah, I guess I could be convinced that it's too far. Cause yeah, it's a round trip and it's not street mileage. It's a point to point.
Okay, here you go. 15
miles.
Circumference?
Radius.
Oh.
That's why I say you can draw 30-mile circles, what you can draw.
Okay, thank you. For mathing.
Not quite Layton, not quite Brigham.
30 miles is here. It's not that bad
Yeah.
from the city offices. It's out into Warren, up to North Ogden.
Yeah, that's not terrible. It looks better on.
South Willard.
What's the line, that distance of that line is 15?
So your circumference is 30 miles, so radius is.
No, you gotta go 15 mile
more.
Yeah, you gotta
radius.
double that.
Triple.
Guys, my brain is.
Maybe radius isn't the right word we want to use.
So radius,
Because that's
radius is 15?
15.
Bird flies.
So that is
So-
down to
That makes a big
Syracuse.
difference.
It's 30 miles, point to point.
Yeah, you're
Not
in
quite Layton, not quite
Huntsville,
Brigham.
Yeah, you're Brigham.
Syracuse, up
You're
into
into
Brigham
Brigham.
City.
Oh, it does get to Brigham.
And
Interesting.
Syracuse, almost to Layton. I don't know, I think that's a long way for our trucks to be,
Oh,
you know.
yeah. Do we have anyone what's our furthest now?
Clearfield. West.
Clearfield isn't one?
Clearfield. Okay. They used to, did we use that?
I live in Lake, you wanna give me a car? I know that's a lot of wear and tear on a vehicle.
Right, you drive it every day.
However, for what it's worth, we are also on the policy if these get traded in often, and so there's very little wear and tear. We're on the almost annually.
I'd feel better if it was like, and so here's like
Smaller would be-
7 miles, 7.
I'm not affected in this one either, so. I mean, it's about-
I mean, that's 7 miles, a radius of 7 miles,
I think that's
which I feel more
reasonable.
comfortable with.
10?
Riverdale up to Willard.
10 or 7?
Does it take you in West Haven?
10
Well, parts of
is
it.
here. So it takes you to the edge of Clinton, almost.
So that
And
that would
into
take
Willard.
all of West Haven, yes. Most of West Haven, unless you're really west. No.
But are we doing this for
Right.
an individual? Or are we doing this for what's
Best for the city?
best for the city?
Well, I I still struggle with the argument that it's best for the city that they take home at all. I have a hard time
Well,
with
where does it
the,
get parked? What if someone breaks in?
is it on
If it's
street, is it off
secure?
street? Yeah.
What if they're, I mean, it can get into an accident here too, but what if their kid backs into it in the driveway? Like,
Yeah,
we
and then
cover
who's
that?
liable, like,
And we are liable for those miles from home to work too every day. I didn't even think about the liability aspect of it.
Yeah, yeah. You guys are a lot smaller than the county though. I mean, if you took away people's take-home cars, are they just gonna say, okay, that's fine? Or are they gonna
Right.
fuck the city? And then it's not in the best interest of the city, because then you have to recruit more people.
Right.
County's a lot bigger, and we have take-home vehicles, and if we took them away, we'd have a lot less employees all of a sudden, because they're used to it, but. Because they're a lot.
Yeah, I'm
I
not-
think it's a benefit to us as well as them, for them to be able to be prepared to get right to work as soon as they
But you-
arrive, wherever that is.
in comparison to all of the other benefits, though. You can't put this in a silo. You have to consider this along with comp time and overtime and paid vacation and.
4 free hours a week.
And.
I mean, not for everybody.
Vacation and sick leave and medical care and 100% medical care, like, I mean.
Well, it all adds to the employee's happiness. They're happy to work for Farr City, and that's the way I would want to keep them.
We have. really-
Is it fair to the taxpayers, to our
Yes.
constituents?
Yes.
But you're only
My
talking,
opinion.
you're only talking about emergency situations, Ken. Otherwise, they're always reporting to the yard or whatever we call it first.
Mhm.
So there's really no benefit to the city to just drive to the yard every day in a city vehicle. You're talking about the one-off, call outs that are probably an employee at a time until they get eyes on, then decide they need a couple more, which they're probably going to the shop anyway to get equipment to fix the
They
problem.
often have the tools with them.
Well, for small jobs, yes, but I'd say they're probably still going to the yard a lot.
So I guess the question is, do you guys want to pick that fight here with this policy, or do we want to do that later after the fact? I don't really care.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think it's something for another day.
Can I just make sense of everybody? Yeah. Do you think it would be beneficial to have the guys come in here and explain to you why they think it's a benefit to the city? I mean, at least let them.
That's why I'm thinking we do it another day.
Policy, you
Yeah.
know?
And have more of a voice in it.
And maybe revisit the radius if we we'll keep with this, maybe revisit the radius.
And if we have basically the fleet here, we have to keep it secure, because it can be broken into probably easier here than in somebody's driveway or their garage.
I would say that depends. All right?
There's a lot of depends.
Because we don't control where employees live, just like we don't control their off hours.
So do we want to change rate
10.
right now?
I think 10.
Okay, that's what I put in there.
Okay, all right.
Oh, just a minor like copy edit up here. 16.8, you have a 16.9 down here.
What's 16.8? Private vehicle use?
Uh-huh.
And take-home vehicle use.
Yep, and you don't list take-home vehicle use up here in your
Oh, up
chapter.
above, I see. Good, thank you.
All right, so can 17.3, we go to there? The comment, it's, the de minimis cost to the city isn't, it's who determines this? It seems like it's very subjective. If we don't define it better, it could create some situations of favoritism.
And the definition is you talking?
Mhm. If an employee's personal use of city-owned property creates a more than a de minimis cost to the city, the employee shall reimburse the city. If the city-owned employee, et cetera, it just doesn't say
That's very
who determines it, yeah.
And it's very subjective.
It's very subjective. I actually don't really like having that policy, but you tell me why we should leave it, Liam.
De minimis uses.
Are you talking about for cell phones and I mean, is it written so that an employee's cell phone that is paid for by the city can't be used against them?
This would cover everything,
Right.
intended to cover everything, even more rather than the printer.
Right.
If you wanted to print out some papers while you're at work.
Yeah.
I mean, is that a de minimis use? You're right, that would be subjective to whoever has to determine that.
But right now, we don't say that anyone has to determine it, just that it needs to be determined.
Yep. So if you want to narrow that down, we have to take it.
I think we should, just to have some reins around it. Mhm. And I don't know what that looks like. I'll just leave that to you if you could come up with something.
Sure.
And then the last comment I had that was in my earlier bullets on my email was the personnel committee. It's not defined. It just talks about them. In my opinion, it shouldn't be governed by people that benefit from it. I don't think they shouldn't be excluded, but they shouldn't have a vote in the decisions. But that's my personal opinion.
I guess one thing about having the department heads on the personnel committee is they have people working for them. So they have that part of it. And then you have Boyd and myself, and if we need somebody else, that kind of puts more of a over them type of thing.
Yeah.
And even fellow workers like, Andrea has at least something a little bit over, not over Nate, but some decisions that affect Nate. Is that a bad thing?
I think it should be brought as a consultant-based role versus a decision-making role. Only from the fact that you're governing, you're making decisions that also benefit you and your.
So you're saying perhaps the personnel committee can be made up of what it is now. Let's say it's defined as me, Boyd, Andrea, Nate, but maybe.
I wouldn't use names, but roles. Okay.
I'm using that because that's how it is now.
Understood.
Those roles are mayor, chair of
Assistant.
personnel committee.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which
Office manager, public works director, and do we have one more? So it's a three.
Probably, I think so. But that chair needs to be defined as again, as a.
That's an assignment by the mayor to Boyd right now.
Yes, but I think it needs to be not what we determine as an employee, what we define as an employee.
You're saying that the chair should have the final decision-making authority. It shouldn't
Cannot
be.
an employee.
Cannot be an employee.
Yeah.
Oh.
So it used to be, Ted used to be on it as well.
Yeah, for planning commission.
So like, technically, the two of us employees could never have a majority vote.
Right,
On
or even tie a vote.
Right.
But I think we'd even take it one step further and say that you're there as a consultant, because obviously we need their assistance. But then decisions should really just be made up of the three that are more appointed or elected officials.
Well, so it's like this though. We sat down and talked about this, but ultimately you guys have to say.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't technically have a vote in this.
But-
I do have a consultant role in this.
Yeah, but a lot of things happen in that committee that the rest of us don't hear about.
Like what? Like all we read about was this.
Agreed, but we didn't get it until 3 days before it was gonna be voted upon. When I thought the takeaway from the first work session was that we would take it away, work on it, then come back and talk about it again. Yeah, an iterative process. So I'm not saying that it needs to be all the time, but I don't know, that's just my thoughts on it.
I guess, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to think how this would work practically, because if the personnel policy does, if they do anything, so you're saying you want to be informed of all things they do or not?
No, I don't. I just think that the personnel committee should be made up of more members that don't benefit from it than that do, or even be equal of.
So you basically add one more that's not an employee.
Yeah.
Like I said, we used to have the planning chair, which
But-
again doesn't benefit. So I believe if you wanted to make that a planning commissioner or even another councilman, because it wouldn't make a quorum.
Yeah, like I said, appointed or elected,
Yeah, we
whatever.
don't have a problem with that.
I know you don't. I'm just saying that it's not defined anywhere, even in this new document. And it should be role-based, not we know that. So.
I was using
I
names
know.
because those are the roles I could think.
I know, I'm sorry, but, yeah, so that way it's just going forward, any citizen can say, oh, well, yeah, it's the mayor. The mayor, I could talk to the mayor, because I know it's defined in here, it states it right here, that they're the ones that are working on personnel issues.
Yeah, I think that the employee should be there in an advisory capacity, but not in a decision-making capacity.
So like the personnel committee, interviews for positions. So if I interview for my
Well, I think
department, I don't get a vote in that.
That's a good example of
You
when you
know?
do.
And I'm like, so
Yeah.
that's the only place I am concerned,
That's
saying
the
I can
other-
only advise.
Yeah, like I said.
Mostly what the personnel
Well,
committee
what
does
if
is
you
hire
don't
people.
know what goes on in my office every day and who's qualified to fill that position?
I've backed off on not having a vote. I think it just needs to be more overpowering to the one side,
And I don't have a problem with that at all.
so. All right.
One more to the defined committee by role.
Yes.
Does that cover it?
That covers it.
So, it almost covers it. I guess I'm wondering what you wanted in this policy. You want the personnel committee defined.
Yes.
You want a policy about their roles and responsibilities?
No. Just defined as that it's the mayor, it's some council member that the mayor appoints to be
The chair.
And then if you want to choose someone from planning commission or
What's one other? appointed-
plus one other appointed
appointed non-employee.
or elected official, yeah. Something like that, Liam. All right, that's my one more thing. Make a motion, we adjourn.
Good work, everyone.
Okay, so what's the next steps on this?
Clean it up.
I'll make these changes. I've got them all on track changes, so I'll make all the changes and then just email everybody, city council and every personnel committee, the clean copy.
Will you email the track changes copy?
Yes.
That would be beneficial.
Okay.
Yeah,
Before
So I
before
know
clean.
that, like, Nate might have seen this. The standard, the rest of the employees feel like they're being left out. So, I
They-
mean, is it fair to provide them with a copy of what's going?
I think it's premature. I think they could listen into the meeting minutes. They could have come to the meeting, you
I
know.
mean, I think if they have any concerns or, they can reach out to, any of us and we're happy to have a conversation with them too.
Yeah, we're always available, but again, with your department, I'm sure you could inform them too.
I mean, technically, this is a public document right now, as it says, they really want it, they can have it.
Yeah.
They can watch the YouTube and look in the Dropbox.
Right, that's what I say. I mean,
Okay, I just wanted, I want to push that.
no, it's good.
We're getting good at this tape.